What is going on, everybody? Look at that epic intro there. Some guy created this guy. Anyway, so welcome to the stream, everyone. Thank you for joining us. It's just going to be kind of a casual hangout between Jeremy and myself. You can see our little names down there. I know they're not little, but they have our names and then our channel. So Home Theater Gamer, Techthusiasm. You know us, you love us. And if you don't, why are you here? But yeah, we're just going to kind of talk about whatever we want, kind of what's been going on. No topical discussions necessarily. We don't have anything kind of ironed out or set down in stone. We're just going to kind of wing it. And I have some questions that, I've been kind of pondering myself lately that I want to kind of talk about in terms of like home theater and like where I see the upgrade path. And I kind of want to pick Jeremy's brain a little bit about kind of how he views some things, as well as talk a little bit about that NVIDIA 4090 that I'm so jealous that he has. And today has been a fun day because I've been dealing with with some PC driver video related issues. So I didn't know that we were going to actually be able to do this tonight. So it's kind of fun to be here. I think I've solved all the issues and stuff. But Jeremy, how are you, man?
I'm well for the most part. I'm nursing. It's only March 1st, and I'm nursing my second cold of the year.
Pretty ridiculous.
Man! So I spent all of January with a cold. Thought I broke it, and then my daughter caught another one, and now she's actually laying down with a 102-degree fever tonight. So
oh no, that's not good.
I'd like to say I'm 100%, but yeah, I don't know what it is. Something keeps rolling through our household this year. Yeah. But that aside, feeling good. And things are popping. It's been an interesting couple of weeks. I think in our space here with news and I put some new gear in, so it's been fun.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I'm going to rely on you for all the news because I have not been keeping up with stuff at all. I've just been kind of busy doing some other things and figuring some stuff out. But not to focus on the negative, but do you find that when you're sick or you don't feel well, that, a lot of people kind of say like, oh, you can just sit around and watch movies. When I don't feel well, I normally just don't want to do anything. Like mentally, I'm tapped out. Is that how it is for you?
Yeah, kind of. I'll just sit with I've been reading more.
Okay.
Catching up on reading some comics. I signed back up with DC Infinite, their like subscription digital service, because I wanted to catch up on some Batman and that. So that's my thing with the man cold, as my wife calls it. Sit on the couch and read some comic books.
The man cold.
Yeah. They're more severe than the female colds.
Yeah, that's true. It's very serious. It's very serious. I can't possibly do anything when I'm sick.
Nope.
But I can barely even walk. But yeah, so we're just gonna kind of chill out here, talk for a bit. If you got a question for us, really help us out. Put a capital Q in the front so we can see it easily, and we'll try to mark it. Since it's kind of off the cuff, maybe we can just every once in a while just go through questions, or as we see them, we could just kind of, say, hey, like we got a couple already, and I think I want to say hi to some folks.
Oh yeah.
And then we'll kind of talk to some friends of the channel. We got Kevin Gardner. He is an OG supporter of Home Theater Gamer, and he is a super cool dude. So Kevin, thank you so much for joining. Youth Man is here in the house. And I'm very very lucky to know this guy. He's actually the one that got me started on my YouTube journey, and here I am nearing 15,000 subscribers. I'm about 70 away. So I'm definitely doing a kind of celebratory 15,000 subscriber live stream when that happens.
Nice.
So that should be fun.
For everybody that watches all these channels, Michael deserves a ton of credit because, talking to him helping people, advising people, he's so open, so accessible. He's probably, if you see an up and coming home theater YouTube channel, odds are that they may have benefited from his advice or guidance somewhere along the way.
Now, we don't want to give him too much credit because his ego's already way out of control, as we all know. No, I'm just kidding. He is very supportive of me, always has been. And, continues to try to help me out as much as he can. I mean, he literally was the reason that I was able to go to Louisiana and check out the $1 million Star Wars
one. It's pretty wild.
Paid for it, and the trip was cut. Like, it was a great time. Delta gave me $1,000 for giving my seat away to somebody else. So
always take that.
Yeah, I was like, what can I buy with this, man? Now you know how that goes. But Kevin, Michael, nice to see you. Terminator Juice is here. Yay. Thank you so much for joining us. He actually had the question that we discussed right before we started. It's like, just a cuff discussion. We're just going to talk about kind of whatever we want. And
well, we did a few of these going into Christmas, and then since the new year, we did one right after Christmas, and then we've been chatting about them, and then
it's normally normally what happens is the Wednesday of, either Jeremy or myself will text the other person and go, hey, do we decide if we're doing a live stream tonight? I don't know. And so hopefully going forward, we'll kind of, I think we were planning on doing some bi-weekly stuff, so maybe we'll kind of get back into that swing. And as you guys know, it's hard, like, once you start focusing on something else, or I have a lot of videos that I've been trying to finish because it's just, I've had a lot of product and from brands that are just sitting there, and I'm like, I feel bad, so trying to like get through those. And I get sidetracked, like my brain is just like, do all of this and don't do anything else.
I've got some stuff sitting back here that I need to touch, and I haven't messed with it all yet. One more shout out. Oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, just say TTK as well. He's got another great channel in our space. He talks a lot of TVs, video games. We should get on with him one of these times. Well,
for sure.
He's in the arcade scene, and I love the arcade scene too. Yeah,
we just watched. I don't want to say it. We were watching a TV show that's very popular right now, and there's an arcade scene. So won't say too much, but yeah, I can't remember what I was going to say. Oh, I do. I remember. I've been wanting to do a lot of things to the home theater, like tweaking wise, like reevaluating things and trying some different things. But the problem is, as most people out there know that are really into this hobby, that's a slippery slope. That's you could spend hours upon hours, and sometimes I just want to play a game or watch a movie. So lately, it's kind of been like the lack of motivation to tweak things and stuff. Because I've been playing a game or watching a TV show or something.
I find I go in spurts with that. I got to get motivated to start, and then tinker around enough with some things, and then finally it's like, all right, that's kind of enough tinkering. I want to actually use this to do something again. But I feel the same pull. I've been saying for I don't know how many months I need to go in and move my subwoofers around, try to get some more naturally flat locations for them, and then rerun some arc and stuff, because I got a whole bunch of room correction, basically pulling up 50 hertz nulls that probably isn't doing all that great of a job with it.
I've been actually planning to go through a full manual calibration, bypassing Odyssey and everything. There's a channel that I'll give a shout out to. It doesn't even know it exists, I don't think, but it's called Obsessive Compulsive Audiophile. And we went through this whole kind of tutorial about it. And I've been really interested to see, for those that don't want to use Odyssey, if this is, a valuable, basically time investment to do. I don't know if I want to do a full tutorial on that, because it's very, very involved. But and he's already done all the legwork, and his videos are really easy to follow and well done. So maybe I'll just point people to that. Cool. But the one thing alone that I did that made a massive difference was actually time align all the speakers based upon their impulse responses in the room.
Nice. Okay.
In the main listening position, which made a difference. So let's say hi to a few more people. Rob James is here. Hi, Rob. Julius R, welcome. Joseph McDermott, he actually has a question. Anyone seen the new Klipsch subwoofers? I just saw Michael's video that he uploaded. I didn't wasn't able to watch the whole thing yet, but definitely check that out. Youth Man's video that he just put up.
Yeah, they just announced some new stuff. Yeah, I feel like the last week and a half or so has been a lot of interesting news.
Kevin already mentioned that he did that. I'm so behind in the chat already. Look at this.
Yeah, I'm trying to look back and star a couple things to make sure we don't leave them behind.
While you do that, I'll go through and just say what's up to some other people. Dre Barnes, welcome. Mike Ortiz, thanks for joining us. Don L, greetings from outside my Austin, Texas. Yes, welcome. Sammy, I can't even 1,000. 10,001 1000. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's see. Justin made it. Justin, yeah, he actually commented on my community post, hoping he make it. So Justin, thank you so much for joining us. Glad you could be here. Oprah Winfrey is in the house. So awesome. We have an icon, a legend with us in the house. You get a car and you no. Let's see. All right. So yeah, like I said, we're just gonna talk about the Goonies Truffle Shuffle cool t-shirt, Brad. Yep. This is a classic. I don't know how old this t-shirt is. I think it's probably like 10, 15 years old. So I actually still fit in it, which is good. I still need to lose weight, but yeah. So yeah, we're gonna just kind of talk about some whatever we want. If you guys want to do super chats or whatnot, feel free to do that. It's not required, much appreciated.
Yeah, always appreciated.
Yeah, always appreciated. Just to show your love, show your support. But just by being here, you're showing your love, showing support. So don't feel like you're obligated to do that. If you want to, cool, buy us a coffee, whatever. But otherwise, yeah, just hang out and ask some questions. We'll have a good time. So, Jeremy, you want to kick off some stuff? I know you said you had kind of a major. I don't know if you want to get into that right now, but kind of a major a video processor on hand that you haven't even installed yet.
Yeah, just letting folks know. It's down here in the basement. The Lumagen is still here. There's been so much other stuff going on. I haven't even put it in, but hopefully soon. Hopefully this weekend, actually. So this is from Matt Blair High Performance Solutions. Great guy, friend of multiple of us. I think he's been responsible for a lot of the work that Taurus is doing in his room. So I'm still hoping to get that thing in. Playing with the Kaleidoscape and the Anthem MDX has taken up, and the Control 4 mode has really kind of monopolized my last few weeks of content.
Yeah.
But I need to get that thing in and out of here. We're leaving for some vacation coming up. I want to make sure I think he might need that back before we go. And so I'm really curious to see what that does in the room, getting a high-end video processor, checking out some tone mapping and all of that. I think it's going to be an incomplete experience, though, honestly, without a lens.
It's like a panamorph, like anamorphic lens, something like that.
Because I don't think a couple of the main reasons that you use a video processor like that, it is for the better tone mapping. And in my opinion, I still think like JVC built in gets us very significant portion of the way there.
Yeah.
This might be marginally better, or MadVR might be marginally better, but I don't know. And then the rest of it's all about aspect ratio controls and all those things. But I don't know. You can do so much with lens memory, a Kaleidoscape, and a control system, a Control 4 system that I'm not. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah,
I don't want to knock it down early, but I'm waiting. I'll be very eager to see if I find something that leaves me wanting.
Yeah.
After, but without a lens, the thing that I think will kill me is zooming up. Right, I've got an extra wide scope screen, and zooming up to have overshoot to get the middle of the screen zoomed up over the entirety of the actual screen surface area. The processor doesn't stop you, I believe, from having to do that in order for it to do its job and fill space in pixels. So unless you have the lens that you can keep the thing zoomed down, taking advantage of all the pixels and all the light and getting the other kind of combination enhancements, I think it might fall a little short, but we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, video processors are something that are somewhat lost on me at the moment. Especially if for me, I really feel like you need a projector or a large screen to really benefit. Like I don't see the kind of necessity to spend, X amount of dollars on a processor that is more than the cost of the display. Especially if you're, like I have a 77 inch OLED. So
it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't think it even adds that much to a flat panel anyway. I mean, you don't need aspect ratio controls. You're basically buying a tone mapper, and TVs have such good processing built in. I don't know.
Youthman, thank you so much. $20 super chat. You didn't even ask a question. Do you have a question? You can ask a question. You can ask us anything, and we'll tell you whatever you want to know.
Our deepest darkest.
AMA, yeah. But no, like, thank you so much, Michael. That $20 is going to go a long way buying a single drink at Starbucks, because that's how. No, but I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And we also got another one from Robert that said, Youthman, just saw your video on massive home theater subs. Great video. I'm excited to announce I just purchased 2 Rhythmic FV18s. Woohoo! Yeah, or maybe it's just a woo. A big upgrade from my Clips SPL12s. Robert, thank you so much for the super chat, buddy. We really, really appreciate it. And congrats on the new subs.
Sweet.
Anytime you get something new, I mean, I think that's something that I am constantly struggling with, because, since we make this content, like, as your channel grows, you get more opportunities to work with brands, and brands send you stuff. So it's kind of like a kid in a candy store where it's so cool to check out all this stuff. But, some of the stuff, a lot of the stuff, like, I'm not at a point where I keep stuff for free, and not all the stuff. I still have to pay for it. So even if it's at a discount, it's like, man, this stuff can start costing quite a bit of money. So, I'm always just like, I'm content with what I have right now.
Yeah.
But this gives me ideas for the future. But yeah, I just remember when I got my, the first time I was running a PB10 ISD from like 2006, just a single. And I remember when I got the dual PB 2000 Pros from SVS. It was my first time hearing the 2000 Pros. In our old house, this is a big open room with no, like, you couldn't close it off. But the difference those made, just a single one made, was amazing. And then you add a second one, it's like, holy crap. So have fun dialing those in, Robert. I'm very excited for you. That's awesome.
I cross-shopped Rhythmic quite a bit before I made the decision to go with the Arndals as I did. And there's a lot of virtues to that brand for sure. Good choice.
It's something that I definitely want to check out. I get a lot of comments, on any of the subwoofer videos I've done. It's like, hey, check out PSA or Rhythmic. And, if I can get, some type of review sample or something, even if I have to send it back, still to kind of have that experience with it. Because I'm not a person that will recommend something that I haven't used. I can give you like the information that's on the spec sheet, but if I don't have experience with it, and you buy it and have a bad experience, and I tell you to buy it, and I'm never out to tell anybody to buy anything. Like, I'm just trying to give you information so you can, make an informed decision based on like what your needs are. Because, at the end of the day, it's like, you got to be happy, and like, it doesn't matter to me what you buy, like, just make sure it makes you happy, So, but yeah, super awesome, Robert. Super excited for you. And so, like, Jeremy, you're talking about Lumagen and high-end stuff like Kaleidoscape, and if we're being honest here, and I'm a very honest guy, as Youthman said in the comments somewhere. So I think he said Brad being honest. Yeah, right. But my theaters, the equipment in my theaters, about 10 to 15,000 range total. So you got a lot more invested. And one of the questions that I've been kind of pondering lately, and like thinking about, especially after listening to that $1 Million Home Theater, it's like, where do I see myself in 5 years, 10 years with a home theater? Like, my wife and I were going to go to the Florida Audio Expo like last weekend or a couple weekends ago, and we had some things that come up that prevented us from being able to go. But I was actually looking at the brands list and like the stuff that they had there, and I'm like, I don't know if I have an interest in $50,000 speakers, like,
Yeah.
So like my question that I've asked myself is like, when is high end too high end? Like, when is the point where you go, okay, the diminishing returns from here on out are just so minor that it doesn't make sense. Like, I'm just kind of curious, like what your view on that is. And sorry if I put you on the spot with that.
No, that's fine. No, I mean, I definitely spent some money into my systems, and quite honestly, I think I'm getting close now. I know I had my chance to get or to demo a Trinoff right around the time I started the channel, and a lot of people still ask me about that, and it's like, why didn't you keep it or whatever? It's like, well, I was never going to buy that. It was for a demo,
Yeah.
but like, I don't know. I feel like I'm reasonably approaching some end game, at least for my home and my space.
Yeah.
Like if we moved and we built another house and I did some things from scratch, then some stuff might change. But when I look at like kind of the gear level that I've been able to achieve, or say maybe I'm knocking on the door of achieving, I don't think I would need to go much farther. Like I don't think I need anything more than I'd be happy to have an Anthem maybe M90 instead of a 70.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, maybe someday or whatever, I'll put a couple more subs in the room, get to 4 subwoofers and get a 90, but I don't know that I'd ever need to go beyond a 90. And like in a projector, I've got an NX7 in the theater. I'd love an NZ9, and I think that would probably be end game. Like I don't think I would be ever looking at like a Sony GTZ 380 or something like that. I don't think I mean, I don't know. I don't think I really need anything more in terms of amps. I want to change my amps around because I'm eager to try out the Class Ds and the NADs and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think in most respects, that's really a side grade. So like these Parasound Halos, I don't know. I think that's probably as top as I might need to get. And then, like I don't imagine why I would ever need to change out my screen. Speakers, I'm very happy with what I have in speakers too. Honestly, it's almost like my speaker aspiration would be very similar to like the Anthem, the 70 versus the 90. I already have the Focal 1000, the bigger ones. It'd be really cool to have the Utopias someday if things were to work out. But I don't know that I probably need a speaker more than that, or a speaker more than like a Perlis and S series in wall.
Yeah.
Like that would be about it. So it's kind of I've actually been thinking about this a lot too, and it leaves me, I wouldn't say feeling disappointed, but like very content. I feel very content.
Yeah,
actually.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think having an idea of like where you want to go. Like I know I'm not at that point. I'm very content with what I have because I just don't have the money to spend on anything else right now. But I have upgrades. My speakers are entry level. I'm pretty happy with my subs, but I would like to get at least get 4 matching subs overall for the room. But and do because my room is so small, it's like a 11 by 13 is basically like a small box. I can't really go kind of hog wild with a bunch of different speakers. Like I don't know that I would benefit from having front wides. But I do want to eventually end up with 4 overhead, like, front, top rear Atmos speakers, and then maybe stick with the 5 bed layers, maybe toy around with the idea of trying to add 7. But again, that size of the room and the distance from the seats to the back of the back wall kind of prevents that. No, I don't need 4 JTR Captivators. I think that would blow out the window. In the front of the room. Like the pressure would be so much that I'd like those JTR Captivators would actually cost me more because I'd have to reinforce that window. And Robert, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. I did not forget about you there.
Thank you.
He actually asked Jeremy, are you planning on getting the PS5 Pro?
So there was a couple items about that, I think, from a few people. Was there some news today?
I have not. I've not, honestly not been keeping up with it like I should.
I'll have to go check. I'll have to go check.
Yeah.
I don't use normally my news or my source of news for stuff like that on a daily basis would come from Twitter, and then when they broke Tweetbot and you can't get like a daily regular historical scroll of Twitter. Like I feel so disconnected from all of these places that I usually follow. But to answer the question, my gut reaction is no, that I sold my Xbox and my PlayStation to double down on the PC. And I've got the PC and the Switch, and I would not intend to add another game system for my personal use. I suppose if it was pertinent to buy one and check it out to make some content about it or be able to comment on it for the channel, that would probably be the reason. But I think I feel pretty well committed to PC gaming right now. And I don't think there's anything that they'll do in a PS5 Pro that will even nip at the heels of what a 4090 can do right now in terms of performance.
Yeah, because I mean, if we think about it, honestly, if the PS5 Pro will hit this year, it's actually been worked on for the past X amount of years, right? Like it's not just they put a bunch of parts together in a slightly different PS5 case and call it a Pro. No, it would have been in development for a while. So it won't even approach a 4090. And I don't know that it needs to, because the 4090 is like triple the cost of a PS5 or Series X pretty much. So yeah, I'm interested to see what they come out with. I think they have a hard enough time optimizing games for the current generation of consoles and PC as it is. So add another console in the mix, and then if they're still trying to make games for the previous generation as well, the PS4 and Xbox ones, then it's like there kind of comes a point where I'm like, okay, like what are they going to try to sell us on next? Because we know that the PS5 is not going to do 8K 60 on any games anytime soon, right? Like, or if at all, which I knew was a kind of a pipe dream.
No, I mean, a PS5 Pro would hopefully just be a 4K 60 machine at fairly decent settings, and then still might not even make that in all games.
Yeah. Arturo actually asked, are you both thinking budget home theater? I am always thinking budget home theater. I'm not in a position, even though I have a channel and it's doing well, I'm not in a position to kind of look at like really high end stuff. Like actually a question for you, Jeremy, talking about the Trinnov, because you have checked it out. Was it just the Altitude 16? Was that the one that you? So like, did you hear it's like a $16,000 processor, right? Like something like that. Did you feel as though you were hearing a $16,000 difference?
No, I can't. I can't say that. It's a really hard question for me to answer because
I think it's also subjective too. Like some people are gonna.
I think a couple things. There's a couple logistics at play. Looking back on my time with that, I was coming from mostly ever really just using Marantz, and I would say I'm far more knowledgeable a year and a half later, or almost 2 years later now, and a lot because of the channel, and really like dedicated myself to a bunch of things. I think I'm much more capable and with room correction systems and understanding EQ than I was when I had the Trinnov for the first time. And then the other part of it was when I had the Trinnov, I was really unsupported. It was a friend of mine had it and kind of let me tinker with it for a little bit. I had no training. I didn't have any dealer helping me set it up. So I really ran just the most basic optimizer sequence and actually struggled with the usability a bit. I still stand by my original assessment there that Trinnov and a lot of companies in the AV space need better usability. Speaking as a developer, but so, I only scratched the surface of what that thing could do. And the other part of it for me too, I think, is my room isn't that complex. It's 7.2.4. It's a fairly decent box. There's really nothing that super hard to do in there. It's relatively treated. It's isolated. So, a lot of what you can get out of the crazy power of a Trinnov, I think, can be applied to much larger systems and much more complex scenarios. And I just don't have that. So, I mean, for what I used it for, it was cool. It was a cool toy to tinker with.
Yeah.
But I can't really say quality judgment on it.
Yeah. I think it's kind of, that'd be something that like, it would be total, like completely out of the, like, it's just ridiculous for me. like at the point I'm at. Like I'm not at a point where like this is like more than my whole home theater, including like the cost of the room that I spent or the money I spent on the room.
Yeah, you got to be approaching $100,000 room to put a Trin off in it.
Yeah, so I was just curious on that about that because you hear so many things about how Trinov is like the end all be all, and I'm like I think it's out of the realm of possibility for most people in the hobby that aren't in that kind of like top tier percent that can afford it and that have, like you said, have $100,000 room minimum. So yeah, thanks for answering that. Sorry to put you on the spot with that one. We didn't we didn't talk about any of this stuff beforehand. We're just kind of here chilling. And yeah, let's get to some questions. We have about 14 starred. We may have actually answered some of these already, but Robert asked, what are you guys gaming on now? What's the specs of your setup? I can kick that off with saying that I game primarily in the home theater on either a Series X or a PS5. The Series X lately has been my console I've been playing on, but I have literally no preference. Whatever system I get the game on is the system I play. Normally, if it's something I'm on the fence about, I'll wait for like a Digital Foundry breakdown of the performance and go with that one. But honestly, my back catalog is so vast right now that you might as well just wait for patches on a lot of this stuff.
Yep.
But and then on my PC, this is like you can't see it back there. It's back there. Anyway, it's just got a 2070 Super in it. It's the Founders Edition, and then it's a Ryzen 939, Ryzen 7, Ryzen 9. Wow, it's been a while. It's a 3900 XT, so it's 12 core, 24 threads. 4.8, I think is a max boost on that. But anyway, yeah. Again, no preference there with Intel or Ryzen. I already had the AM4 motherboard and decided to stay within that family for now. And eventually I would love to upgrade and just to have a dedicated editing system as well as like a dedicated gaming PC in the theater, because especially now with NVIDIA getting rid of Game Stream and stuff like that on the NVIDIA Shield. I was never a big proponent or user of that. So I would just move the PC over there, but it's a 40, 50 pound computer, moving it over there because it's all water. It's like water cooled and stuff, not custom loop, but it's just an AIO. It's heavy, and I kind of get a little nervous when I'm like bringing it over there because I'm like, well, one false move and my work computer is,
there it goes.
you don't want to lose that. So, but yeah, what do you get? I have the Switch as well, but I don't really play it very much. But what do you play on, Jeremy?
I mostly play Marble Snap on my iPad Pro 12.9 inch.
I remember you telling us about that, and there was another game, right? Another game that you play that you spend money on.
Well, yeah, Snap. Actually, I haven't been playing as much Snap this last season and a half, but no, we've got the Switch. We use the Switch for family games. The four of us, Mario Kart, Snipper Clips, and all that 4-player fun stuff. When we just want to turn something on and make sure that it always works. And and then I've got the PC. What was it? Oh, the MSI Gaming X Trio 4090 rocking in there. There's an Intel 11900K CPU, 32 gig of RAM, 2 terabyte PCI Gen 4 SSD. I need to rebuild it, so I'll be doing that soon with my plans for the living room. I'm going to kind of consolize that PC, change it over from a desktop case to probably a Silverstone GD11. Same one. TTK's already made some content about that. He picked up that same case just recently. So I think I'm gonna have to downsize my all-in-one or my RAD from a 360 to a 240 to fit that case. But I think I'm gonna keep all the other parts the same.
Yeah.
So that rebuild will be coming. I'm not sure when. Maybe probably into the springtime. Right now, I'm just kind of in an ugly-looking thing because I was tired of controller disconnects and other problems. I just put the PC up in the living room as is. I kind of got some cheesy looking cables running in front of the subwoofer, the speakers to behind the TV just to hook it up. But I haven't, honestly. Brad texted me the other day. He's like, I really want to hear about your 4090 experience. And I can say it runs Lego Marvel Superheroes and Moving Out really well. It kills Moving Out.
That's hilarious.
4K 120. So my plan though, I want to play God of War, the 2018 game. I've been into that game and then stopped playing it a couple of times, but now the that 4090 will kick that game like 4K 120 maxed out.
Yeah,
it's nuts. So
yeah.
I'm finally ready to play that. But I probably won't start it until April-ish, perhaps. So we're leaving for vacation in a few weeks for like a few weeks. So I don't want to start something and then come back 2 weeks later to pick it up again. So
like not remember how to play. And
exactly.
like, what was I doing here? I don't remember. That happens to me so much. Yeah, I would love the 4090. I can't afford it. And honestly, I would probably have to rebuild or like basically do a new build because I would be bottlenecking it with other components in my system, motherboard, CPU. It can't feed it enough information. I'm really interested though to see the even the lower end, mainly due to the DLSS 3 frame generation. That seems to make a pretty substantial difference in a lot of games. And I don't know, I'm always curious about that kind of tech. I mean, I'm at the point now with my 2070 Super where I basically, unless I want to take screenshots or just like look in awe at like what ray tracing can do, it's not feasible to play a game with ray tracing even at like 1440p on the 2070 Super. But it does a fine job at doing like 4K 60 on a lot of titles. If I, reduce some settings or use DLSS, that's kind of like the big thing is any type of, image reconstruction, be it that or FSR 2.1. That's a big thing that helps a lot. And I wish the consoles would actually adopt more into using image reconstruction like FSR 2.1. Not the I know a lot of games like Hogwarts Legacy and I even a couple other games use FSR 1, which is way worse than FSR 2. Like it still does the job, but like I remember when they updated Dying Light to use FSR 2 on the consoles and I was like, holy crap, like this looks amazing. Like it looked kind of grungy and like not super sharp and detailed before. A lot of like weird artifacting, and a lot of that was gone with the FSR2 update.
That reconstruction I think could be the saving grace of console performance going forward.
Awesome. Cool. Moving on to the next question. Justin asked, Brad, did you end up keeping the PB3000s? Maybe. I'm still working with SVS on that one, trying to figure out some stuff there. I can't say too much about it, but I'm hoping that happens. If not, I might end up because I'm working on getting the 4000s, so I might just end up keeping those instead of the 3000s. So we'll see kind of how things work out. But hopefully, crossing my fingers, I'll be keeping those. Let's see here. Strong Genetics asks, caught that Anthem 15% off sale and AVM 78K on the way. Dude, congrats. That is awesome.
Throwing out there, anybody that wants some Anthem gear, a lot of their lineup is on sale, 15% off right now. There was another comment about, is that a harbinger of the fact that there might be new models? I couldn't believe that there would be new models coming anytime soon from Anthem. Most of the stuff that they have in their lineup has been refreshed recently enough, and they've been upgrading everything significantly with firmware and features.
Yeah.
So I think the platform we have has a lot of legs still, but we'll see.
It's always interesting to see. Like, I think, didn't Integra just announce a new AVR that has like Dirac and some, like I was reading something, I can't remember. It's been a long day.
Yeah, no, there was an Integra article, and then like a week ago, Sony dropped new receiver news.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that everyone's talking about that one.
Yep.
So people got some options, and that's, I think, a great thing. Sorry, my mic just kind of went this way for some reason. A ghost moved it. Let's see. Terminator Juice asks, "Hey Brett, how much have you been using your room for movies? What's the biggest difference in having a dedicated room for movie watching?" I think I've been using it a lot. I basically watch most, if not everything, in there in regards to movies, listening to music sometimes. I'll be honest, most of the music I listen to is through some type of earbuds or something. or like in the workout room when I'm like trying to exercise.
Mm.
But I use it a lot. I think the biggest difference that I've noticed having a dedicated room, especially with the acoustic treatments and everything in there, is it's the quietest room in the house. Now it doesn't block out like outside noise, because there's that front window there. So like eventually I would love to do something to get rid of that. But I'm not ready to like, move everything out of the way of the windows to like, fill them with insulation or something. But it's very, very quiet. So if like you can hear a pin drop in a movie. And that's really like the biggest difference. That and I've never had acoustic treatments to this effect before. I never made them myself or anything like that prior to doing this for this room. And so having the lack of like echo or massive, like there's still a little bit because like the room's not completely dead or dry. It is pretty dry. It's on the drier side than it is on the
it's like stabilized.
Right. Now I don't have any bass traps because the room is so small that I would be eating into the kind of usability of the space if I were to add bass traps, which I'm still looking into. I don't have any like diffusion. So that's something that people have kind of commented and said, hey, like, did you consider using diffusion here? Is like, yeah, but like I didn't have the budget or the time to really look into making those. I just needed to get it done.
Yep.
But yeah, kind of having that the stabilized, balanced sound, it makes a massive difference. And like even like they're 3-inch panels and they're 3 inches off the wall, so there's like 6 inches technically of like usable. I don't know if you call it usable, but they're very effective in cutting down that echo and room reverberation and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know if it's made a ton of difference in the bass region, just because they're not really thick enough to affect too many like low frequency, LFE, like way down low. I think they're probably effective down to probably about 200 hertz in that room. So yeah, but that's the biggest difference that I've noticed.
Yeah, there's something cool and just calming about walking into a treated, dedicated room that, like, I don't know, it just like locks in the experience when you, the sound of your voice just as you go into the room, it's like it's preparing you for the audio video experience that's going to come. I feel that whenever I walk in my room like this, like this rediscovery of like, I'm really cool, I'm really glad I have this or whatever.
Yeah. Have you ever, I don't know if you've done this. I've done this. I'll have like be on the phone, like just wearing like, one of my AirPods or something. And I'll be talking as I'm walking into the room. And so once you cross that like threshold, it's like, it goes from like, it just tightens everything down. And it does add to that movie theater kind of experience, even though the room's smaller. It's kind of like when you walk into that big Cineplex and, you walk through the big doors in the Cineplex and you walk around that corner because of the way the room is shaped. And there's that hallway that leads in. You come around and like, you're kind of in this almost vacuum of space, right? And that's kind of like like, I'm very proud that that's the vibe the room has when you walk into it. And some people have said it's overtreated. Probably could go back to the drawing board, but honestly, I've talked to home theater gurus, Stephen Smith, about it, and he's like, yeah, it's dry, but like it probably sounds awesome. I'm like, yeah,
you get that detail. I end up watching a lot of stuff in my living room just out of like kind of evening laziness or whatever. Put the kids to bed, come downstairs, it's 10 o'clock, and it's like, all right, I'm gonna watch, whatever, Sunday night I'm gonna watch The Last of Us. I've really been trying to watch that every night the new episodes come out. And it's like, God, I really should go downstairs and watch this in the theater, but it's like, it's already like 10:30. I'm cold. Fireplace is right here. So I'll end up watching that in the living room. And, I've got the fireplace on and that's making noise, and the blower, and it runs for a little while. And then through the episode, like the fireplace will finish its cycle. And then the blower shuts off. And then it's like, oh, this audio detail comes back that the blower was taking out this frequency range of sound. I really should go downstairs to watch this show, but
Yeah, and that's a big thing that in our old house, because of the way the room was so open, the kitchen was just off to the side. So,
Mm-hmm.
you'd hear the refrigerator click on, the compressor in the refrigerator. If I was doing dishes, forget it. Like the dishwasher was so loud. I mean, it was a rental, it is what it is.
Yep.
But like that would mask a lot of the detail in the audio. And then like the washer and dryer were just off to the side of that room, so you could hear everything. And thankfully here, even in this room, which isn't really treated, it's got some curtains on the walls to help with like some of the higher end reflections. You can't hear any of that with the door, especially with the door closed. Like the washer dryer's out in the garage, the dishwasher's on right now, and it's like quiet in here. Like I can record, we could do live streams. So like the theater room is actually the next room over from this one. So it's even quieter there. The only thing is there's a neighbor with a kind of noisy car when he starts it up with a big muffler on it. And it's like, I hear that and it's like, oh, come on. It's actually ruined some takes on some recordings here. I'm like, come on, man. Come on. But
noise floor. Going after noise floor eventually at some point, presuming we don't move and we're committed to living in this place for a while, there will be a version 3 of my theater, and I will amongst the multiple plans, like some flipping the room around, I would actually be locking the room down with noise and redoing drywall and all of that specifically for like this like zero noise floor kind of target.
Yeah. And he's like, Terminator Juice said, the lower the noise floor in the room, the bigger the audible dynamic range. Absolutely. And that again is, I mean, my wife even notices, and I'm not saying my wife is like, she doesn't know how to explain kind of what she's hearing, but she hears it. And like for her to be like, wow, that sounds awesome. Like I'll bring her in and ask her, hey, like I made this a few tweaks. Like, can you even hear? She's like, oh yeah, it's like I remember when I moved the Atmos speakers more inwards because they were way too like far out to the side corner or to the side walls. So they were kind of blending in with the bed layer too much, and like there was a lot of smearing going on. When I moved those, it's like suddenly there are like all these little details that you pick up on in the overheads that you're like, well, I didn't even know those were there. That's crazy. So cool. That's kind of not in the realm of like acoustic treatment, but I think having that low noise floor helps to bring out those details.
My wife is really good at not so much audio detail, but she's got like an eye for video that I don't have. Like if something is off in a frame rate, or there's like a sync delay or something like that, I'll sit there oblivious, like happily watching, and she's like, this not matching up. Fix it.
Oh, so she's the one that has to bring it up to you?
Yeah.
See, it's the opposite where I'm like, are the lips off? Because the lips are off to me, and she's like, I can't tell. Normally I'm like, oh wait, hold on. It's like, it was a real problem when we had the Vizio for some reason. Even though we weren't really routing anything through the Vizio, for whatever reason, the Vizio was setting the delay on the receiver, like the auto lip sync, really high. And so there was sometimes a noticeable, like almost half a second to 1 second delay between that. And it was like, this is not good. Moving on. Kevin Gardner asks, here's the thing somebody want to try. I lowered the crossovers in my AVR and improved the audibility of all sounds. Went down to 50 on LCR and 60 on the rest. So that's actually interesting that you mentioned that, Kevin, because when I was following Obsessive Compulsive Audiophile's tutorial on how to time align your speakers and subwoofer using the impulse response in Room EQ Wizard, basically you measure a known distance of a speaker. So like my center speaker, physically measure it with a tape measure, go, okay, this is, 3 meters away, exact 2.99, whatever. All the other speakers are time aligned to that as long as the mic's in the main listening position. And once I actually did that, I was able to lower my crossovers on all of my speakers because the sub was like the timing of the sub was way off. Talking about like almost 30 milliseconds. And I was able to get it down to around 10 to 15. I couldn't get it quite where it needed to be just because the mini DSP adds delay. And at the time I didn't want to like go in and try to fiddle with like adding more delay to the actual like speakers and the receiver. So, but once I did that, I was able to lower my crossover by 30 hertz. It actually gave me a much smoother response just because they were now kind of aligned. I don't know if that, you know, because for me, it's all about having that the smoothest response at the crossover.
Yeah.
Because I've tried changing it to 50, 60, and there's a massive dip there. And the great thing is just looking at the impulse response, you can actually see if like you need to kind of reverse polarity on, like if something is not right. And that was one of the biggest things with my subwoofers, is I actually didn't realize that they were not in phase, or like the polarity was not the same. So like, I don't know, Jeremy, if you're familiar with impulse response, but like you basically want all your speakers facing the same way. Whatever the impulse response, the maximum, like normally it's like either minus 100 or plus 100. There's like a big spike. You want them all facing that way, as far as I understand. I'm not an expert at this. And what was actually funny is my Atmos speakers were flipped. They were the opposite way. So, and I don't know if it's because they're different manufacturers or they're actually firing down into the room, but that was another change that I made that was a much noticeable change. So yeah, that's but that's definitely something that, you know, try swapping those crossovers and yeah, seeing what you get. Like sometimes it can help. Like right now, I think I have my surrounds at 60 because I'm reviewing the Aperion Audio Bravus 2 12D, and that got me the smoothest response.
Bigger speaker.
No, it's just a subwoofer. Like it's just so like the way that I was able to get it even closer in terms of timing to the rest of the speakers, I was able to lower the crossovers of that. But the fronts kind of stayed around the 80 hertz region, which was interesting to me. Bubblehead, thank you so much for stopping by, buddy. I really appreciate the $2. Thank you so much. Listen to that music, man. And yeah, check us out later. But thanks for stopping by. I really appreciate it. Let's see here. What else we got? It was Kevin. Mike asks, I'm having trouble setting my gain for my subs. Denon S760H, mini DSP 2x4 HD, dual Crown XLS 1002 bridged, dual DA15 HO sub sealed. I keep clipping, or it's just low output. That's interesting. But I don't have experience with those subs. But yeah, I mean, we might need some more information there to try to help you out. Like what the like, because it could be on the amp side, it could be on the receiver side, it could be on the mini DSP side.
Yeah, the more things you have connecting, the more more points of failure potentially.
Yeah, so something in there could be causing an issue. It's weird that you keep clipping. So I definitely make sure that if you're not on 0 on the receiver output, definitely make sure of that. You might also try going like -2 or -3 on the receiver just to see if that prevents clipping. And then if you could like bring up the volume slightly on the subs themselves, either through, see, again, I'm not familiar with his setup. I don't, yeah, not familiar with the Crown amps.
Yeah, I don't have much.
Yeah, but that's something that you could try. Like, you could also try removing the mini DSP completely, just as a point of troubleshooting. So like you take out something and you're like, okay, I'm not clipping anymore, even when I set these to what I normally set them to through the mini DSP. So that can tell you that something's going on through the mini DSP. And then if that doesn't do it, then yeah, I mean, there's like troubleshooting steps, unfortunately, that we could be here all night troubleshooting. But yeah, hopefully you get that sorted out, because that stuff like that is frustrating, as you know. I mean, just dealing with technical issues on the PC all day, I tried to get a video done for the past 2 days, and it just snag after snag. So yeah, I feel for you there, Mike. Hopefully you get that figured out. Let us know more if you can in the comments there. Let's see. Mike again asks, do I need to get an inline converter like the Art Clean Box Pro? I think that's in response to what he just said. I'm not like, could dirty power be causing that clipping? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Or like a dirty line, maybe.
What is the Art Clean Box Pro? Let's see.
Let's see.
Oh, you run your audio through it.
Oh, okay.
So that would take out noise or something in the actual audio signal, I guess.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know.
Let's see here. So yeah, so hopefully, like, yeah, I really hope we can get that figured out. I think Robert, we had already talked to here. This is kind of the same that I think we kind of answered this, but it's just having that dedicated space away from everything else. Yep. That, you know, a large part is that quiet room, but just kind of being able to like chill out in there. That's I mean, I've fallen asleep in there before, well, numerous times, just because, you know, you're in there. It's completely light controlled, so even during the day, like bright outside, it's completely dark in there.
Big thing for me, I think, is the focus of it. Like, how to say this? I'm the neatest person in the household.
I get that. Yep.
And other folks in the household don't aspire to the same level of put all your stuff away and keep things neat and organized and clean as I do. So my living room, our shared spaces are usually inundated with stuff, and it's tough too, because we homeschool. So there's always things going on, people doing projects and all this stuff. But so no matter what, if I sit down in the living room, you know, it's kind of not just me in the show or me in the movie. It's me and the stuff on the coffee table and the Lego. If you watch my channels, you've seen this Lego set sitting down in front of the television for probably the last 4 months. And it's this like triple house thing that my son, he's making a stop motion video constructing this house.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
For his YouTube channel. He's got a little channel that we set up for him called the Fun Zone. He makes stop motions and all that. But it's like, oh my God, dude, like perfect is the enemy of done here. Like, you don't need to be a perfectionist. Just get this project done and get this Lego house out of the field of view of my television, please.
Yeah.
So going into the theater, I like the theater is like, you know, well, I wouldn't say my room or whatever, but nothing else happens in there. So there's never a debris field. There's never other projects or whatever in the space. So competing with competing with the screen for my visual attention. That's huge for me.
Yeah. If something, my theater room is the same. There's no like, I mean, if I leave something in there, I left it in there. Like normally my wife doesn't hang out in there unless, you know, she needs a quiet place to like talk on the phone or something and I'm not around. But normally it's just me. It is kind of becoming like a haven for all the products that I get kind of off in the corner. It's like I have a total of 8 subwoofers in that room right now, and like 4, like only 2 are hooked up and 1 is only active. So it's like they're all off to the, I have, you know, just a wave of subwoofers in the back, and it's just like, hey, like I guess we need to actually start sending some of these back. So let's see here. Moving on here. Joseph asks, when do you think they will fully stop optimizing for last gen consoles? And I hope soon. No. I mean, I don't want to be that guy that's like, you know, stop. Like you have an old console, you can't play these new games anymore. But there does come a point where, you know, even games that are beautiful, like Horizon Forbidden West, I feel could look even better and have better features and quality of life improvements if they didn't have to make that last gen version. So like even something that I've complained about with that game is loading times. It's like there's no reason to have these loading times with the PS5 with the hard drive the way it is. When games like Ratchet and Clank can load whole worlds within seconds, I shouldn't have to stare at a loading screen because of what was, you know, what's going on, you know, in previous gen versions. And other studios optimize their games too, so that's part of it. Like Insomniac again with like the Miles Morales, you know, it's a different experience on the PS5 over the PS4, PS4 Pro. Like it takes advantage of all those PS5 features. Like the fast travel is literally instant. Pretty much like fades to black, comes up, you're in a different spot in the city on the other side of the map.
Yep.
So like but at some point we do need to, just stop. And I don't know when that will be.
Yeah.
And also we have some weird like stuff going on with like the Xbox Series S and the One X, being that it's like,
yeah,
the One X is typically higher resolution, even though it's like 30 FPS, than the Series S, because the Series S is looking at the 1S code, or the programming or whatever, and not really taking it like that. Shouldn't be the case. The Series S should be better than the One X.
Yeah,
And
you would think.
You would think, right? Yeah,
It'll be interesting if the whole idea of making the S and the X works against Microsoft at some point, because Sony can cut off the PS4, and then they have the platform, but the S can't go away with the One X. The S has to live with the Series X for a long time to come still. And so I think that was like a really great short-term perhaps idea to do the dual SKU, different power level thresholds kind of thing. But in the back half of this generation, I think it's going to work against them.
Yeah. And especially as we get into like the whole PS4 Pro or PS5 Pro, Xbox Series X Plus, I don't know what they would call it if they came out with one.
Yeah.
It becomes even more problematic, because how many consoles and PC are developers having to optimize for now? If they're, even if we take the Switch out of the equation, that's a total of 4 consoles. Well, 5 technically with the series. Well, no. See, I'm already losing track, so it can be really difficult to make sure it runs like great on all of them. But yeah, at some point we just need to kind of say goodbye to the old guys. And
I take a harsher stance on that, I think.
Yeah, you just like get them like out now. Just stop.
I would want console gaming just to be a more forward-thinking, continually upgradable premium experience, and but that's not what it has been yet.
No. Well, what are your like, and not to interrupt other people's questions here, but since we're talking about gaming, since you game a lot on PC, what are your thoughts on like a lot of console games? Not a lot, but some of the console games coming out now, like Hogwarts Legacy is one of them, that literally has 4 or 5 different performance modes, with the ability to unlock the frame rate on like 4 of them. And it's like suddenly you have all these options, and you're like, I mean, if you have a capable like a 120 hertz display, you have like all the options. It's like, like I don't game on PC a lot because my OCD just gets the best of me, and I can sit there and go, well, if I drop shadows down to high and post processing down to medium, oh man, I can get 10 more frames per second. I end up doing that over playing the game, which is why it becomes like kind of an issue when you suddenly have 87 different variations of settings that you can adjust.
No, you basically, like you said earlier, I think, right? You pretty much can't play a console game anymore without watching the Digital Foundry video first or something to say which, all right, what mode am I, or your content, or somebody
gaming
else,
tech.
right?
Gaming tech's in the chat somewhere.
Exactly. Yeah,
might still be
right.
there.
Somebody that's really measured and looked at this stuff and kind of made an objective determination. Like all things considered, this is probably the preferable way to the best balance or something to choose. It's a stressful decision. So
well, then with HDR, it's like a whole other thing with games coming out that we just kind of need more games to jump on the HGIG bandwagon, so we don't have to keep making videos about literally analyzing HDR screenshots to see like what the best setting is. Like, who's gonna do that? Like, the whole point of like having a console is to just turn it on, either put the disc in, download the game, and go to town. Go play.
If I couldn't build the PCs that I am able to build, then I probably wouldn't be a PC gamer, because I would also like subscribe to always tweaking and tuning and like FUD or doubt in my mind that am I getting enough of experience about this, and like, should I go turn some of these other dials, and then which is better than what. So my saving grace to that, the only way that I'm able to do it by peace of mind is to be able to put in that and basically turn everything up, native 4K. Now being connected to a VRR TV, pretty much any game that I'm going to want to play is going to be above that 60 FPS. It's going to be native 4K. It's going to have all the bells and whistles. And at worst, maybe there's a dial or two to tweak, or, if you really want to crank it up, then just go turn on, like you said, go turn on DLSS 3 or something. And that's it. And I feel confident that I don't have to fuss.
Yeah. I mean, I would think, honestly, and this is just something that I've noticed, typically DLSS set to like quality mode actually looks, if good, if not better, as good, if not better than native 4K using TAA.
Mm-hmm.
So I always would just be like, you know what, I'll turn on DLSS, because it will prevent I mean, at that point, you're also preventing the card from really, I mean, you're not really throttling the card, but you're probably not going to max out 100% of its usage, right?
Yeah.
On a lot of games, especially the 4090. So I think the DLSS has done like great things for like just kind of replacing TAA in general. And I always find that TAA can look a little like a blurry at times. It just DLSS helps take care of a lot of the jagged edges and stuff. So
probably works in my favor too, that just based on time, my backlog is so big. So if I'm probably playing games that are older than the most cutting edge super release.
Yeah.
So on that.
What is Cyberpunk? I don't know.
Yeah. No, if
on
my to play list, if I were to get going on something, I'd probably be stacking up, like, again, God of War 2018.
Yeah.
I still haven't played Batman Arkham Knight, and I'm a big, as mentioned earlier, comic fan. Batman's one of my favorite characters. I played all the other Batman games except that one. So anything like that, late 2010s game, I mean, it's going to be 4K 120 maxed out all day, and don't even sweat. So
I also like seeing the new like what they're doing with ray tracing on older games like Portal and Half-Life 1. They just released an update for Half-Life 1 with RTX. I'm like, that's super cool. It's one of my favorite games, by the way, in case anybody wants to know. Let's see here. Youthman asks, what product would you love to demo and experience in your own home? Jeremy, you have kind of like a pipe dream, like, oh, I'd love to check that out.
I think the stuff that I want to the most would probably be that NZ9.
Yeah.
Like if I could snap my fingers and have something in my house right now that I don't have, I would really like to see what that projector does in my room compared to like the NX7, or potentially get that like 97-inch G2 to appear for the living room.
That was going to be
something
mine.
Like that.
You stole it from me. You just stole my I would love to see what the 97-inch G2 would look like in the theater room, because projector at the current time isn't really an option because of the size of the room and the way it's set up.
Yeah. You get close as well, closer, so right.
Yeah. And I'm actually currently thinking like I have about 6 to 8 inches of space behind the entertainment stand that I originally just was going to leave there for unhooking stuff and all that. But I think I'm going to actually end up taking just pushing it all the way as close to the wall as it can go without pushing the curtains into the wall. So that way it's just a little bit of extra space that would help. Because it's a little tight, like I think in one of my pictures that I posted of unboxing this subwoofer that I just shot a video for, someone's like, what's it like? Does it help that the center channel is like firing into your ankles? And it's like, I mean, no, it doesn't. But, I don't really have any other like options. I don't want to push the seats all the way to the back of the room, because that's not. Oh, that's not something that I want. Plus, I have the near field subs right behind the seat, so I only have another couple inches of space that I could move those anyway. So, but yeah, I would love to see that LG 97-inch G2. Something I just could never afford at the current price point, right?
Yeah, 25.
So,
Either one of those, that TV or that projector are both right at that like 25K MSRP mark. So yeah, I
yeah,
need 50
that's
grand. If anybody
yeah.
wants to super chat 50 grand over,
Yeah. I don't
tell
know
me
if
right
like
about.
YouTube would even allow that.
Well,
Someone
they
out
would
there
take,
want to try. No,
yeah,
no, I'm
well, they
just
take
kidding.
like 35,000 of it, so we
Yeah, yeah.
wouldn't even have enough to
So
buy one.
like we'd have to figure out what the percentage anyway. But so yeah, and Justin, that actually kind of answered your question there about if I'd ever go in a projector in my space. I'm not saying I definitely won't, but right now it's just not feasible due to the distance. I would really have to rework a lot of stuff to get to function.
Mhm.
And even like mounting the projector, even like I thought about like, oh well, what about like a ultra short throw or something. um but my thing is, it's like I don't know if it would be even worth it for some of this stuff. If I had to go up to a 90-inch screen, like,
Yeah,
is that really going to be like I could get an
not
83-inch
even worth it.
OLED?
Yeah, not even worth it. Yeah,
So
there's points in this hobby where you got to just be pragmatic, and it's
yeah,
like, you know, whatever that might be cool in some spaces, but it's just not pragmatic at all. If you're not going to get a projection set up to 100 inches, 110, 100, whatever, then 83-inch TV, sitting closer to an 83-inch TV, it's going to be a superior experience anyway. It's going to do
yeah,
real HDR. It's going to be brighter. It's going to be blacker.
yeah.
And
It's a
then you,
compromise going between a project, like, right, like this is something I've actually talked to people about before, and it's like some people just can't seem to wrap. I don't know what it is. It's like, you end up like just talking to a wall with certain people
hmm,
where they're like projector all the way. It's like, but
yeah,
you're never gonna get it, like it just can't get bright enough. That's why you need tone mapping to really benefit from
mhm,
HDR. But like you said, you're still gonna get a better experience on like an OLED or even certain LEDs. And
yep.
other than like I can't remember the exact Christie projector I saw at Cedia that had near OLED level blacks.
Oh, the Christie's nuts. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like, I think the one that we saw was like $250,000, something like that. It was
Yep.
beautiful, but who's got $250,000 to spend on a projector? Not this
Yeah.
guy.
One of the
Not me.
Michigan home theater group guys has that. He threw a party last year, and a bunch of us went to his house and saw that. It was, I don't even know how big that screen was. It was monster, and that thing lit it up like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah, that's
And
awesome.
black, and the brightest brights. Yeah, yep, Art. Yep, that's the guy.
That's crazy. Yeah, I think you know, it's like I said, it's a compromise, and
Yeah.
like you said, you have to be pragmatic and realize that like projectors are great. There also comes a point where like a lot of professional studios that do color grading and stuff,
Hmm.
they have these $30,000
Yeah.
like monitors and stuff, but they also typically use LG OLEDs as like their kind of everyman monitor. I can't remember what you call it, but they have a calibrated OLED, and it's like that's how they color grade it. And I don't know. I'm happy with like the OLED, and will I go with a projector one day? Possibly, but
Yeah.
I don't know if it'll be in this house. I
Right.
think maybe if I had a bigger room,
Yep. Exactly.
and
That's the thing.
I would definitely want to have something, because right now projectors for gaming, you really do have to make compromises to get like
Yep.
120 and stuff, or you got to
Right.
spend a boatload of money when you
Yep.
can get a similar or better experience, if not better experience, on a like an OLED or something.
Yeah. I don't even have the PC hooked up to play in the theater right now. It's
No,
it's only it's in the living room. It's only
yeah.
connected to the TV in the living room.
Do you have
Despite,
any?
yeah,
Go ahead.
just despite the audio experience in the theater being better and the bigger screen and all that, it's just I just it's accessible where it is. I game so little as it is. Having accessibility to have it right there,
Yeah,
and when we do it as a family, being in the living room, it serves the use case better. I think sometimes, like in this hobby, the we don't want to like accept the realities of some of our decisions, I guess, like because
yeah,
of peer pressure or feeling that we're compromising or whatever. I was doing a call with a guy, the other weekend, and kind of helping him lay out a room. It's got a really, really cool looking attic space. And through the course of the conversation, talking about like speaker setups and layouts, and like this, his room will be phenomenal. The space will be awesome. It's this really big, oversized attic. It's going to have like game room space in the back and all this, but the one pocket would be like all the theater. And it made no sense at all to put rear surrounds in here. And it's like, okay, in this case, like, forget the rear surrounds. Like, there's so many virtues to the room. Don't feel that because you got to pull a couple speakers out from one position, that one compromise is like taking the whole project down, or like, don't sweat it. We get way too
fear of missing out.
Yeah.
That's like, you're gonna miss out on something that I've run with 5 bed channels for a long time. When I went to Atmos, I had to sacrifice those rear surrounds, and I thought, or the back surround, sorry. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to miss a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I noticed the overheads more than, when Atmos is done correctly. That bubble of sound is still there, especially on a small room. It's like, don't sweat a lot of the small stuff too. Like, it kind of eats into the enjoyment that you can get from the hobby. I want to highlight this because the youth man who I went to CD with, actually, the projector was $450,000, not $250,000. So I was off. I was off a little bit.
Art has this Christie. It's in its own room, basically. It's like in a chiller room, and all the stuff he had to do to be able to run it in a residential environment. It's pretty wild. Real commercial cinema.
Yeah. Let's see here. Michael also asked, do you think the PS5 Pro will increase the resolution of Minecraft? I love that you called it Minecraft, not Minecraft. That game looks very pixelated on the PS5. That game looks very pixelated on the Xbox Series X. It's like, I remember when they were going to make this whole thing for the 1X version of Minecraft, Microsoft was, after they bought it, like these, high-res texture packs and all this stuff, rendering in 4K, and they never did that. I think it still is 1080p on the Series X. Like, I don't even think it does 4K. I play on the PC with my niece a lot, and on the Series X, and I mean, the PC blows it away.
Oh yeah.
Like,
just draw distance.
Draw distance. Well, I mean, we play on a Realm, so the draw distance is going to be whatever's on the Realm.
Yep.
But I mean, it's you get 100, like, locked 120 4K if I want to, and on the console it's like 1080p 60 with drops. Like, even with VRR, that's noticeable. It's like, come on, guys. Like, come on.
My son was in Minecraft for a little while, but that's kind of fallen by the wayside.
I mean, my niece and I play quite a bit. Not as much lately, but it's vast, the amount of knowledge that she has gained in the short amount of time that I've been playing Minecraft since it released, and she knows more than I do. But then again, I think that's kind of like her life right now. She's 10.
Yep.
So, like, she doesn't have responsibilities other than school and Minecraft and stuff.
Nope.
So I'm like, how do you, oh, no, that makes sense. Let's see. Have you guys seen the news of the new Integra 11 channel AVR? We were just talking about that briefly. It's exciting. More options for people. There's that new Sony that we were talking about.
Yep.
Just I think like I said, like I always say, more options are always good. I have preferences. I don't want to say biases, just because I have experience with a product doesn't mean I'm biased toward it. It's just, I'm very comfortable with Denon and Marantz because I've had those for years. And so if it's something like, oh, well, I might look at getting one of those, but I also look at the value of other things. I've had Onkyo for, throughout the years too. And other than, I think there was like an HDMI issue with one of them. They've been rock solid. They actually still work. I think I have 3 of them.
Yeah. So. Yeah. I've got the same affinity for Anthem here, looking at 1, 2, 3. Anthem runs every piece of audio processing in the household now, both rooms. And then with this MDX, all 8 zones of our distributed audio are Anthem based. Wow. And I feel I don't need anything else.
Awesome. Jeremy, I don't know. I've already read this question. I don't know the answer, so you might have a little bit more insight. But yeah, Bruce asks, what's the maximum peak voltage that XLR and RCA can handle? Also, what's the peak voltage that the sub-channel pre-out provides from AV processor, XLR and RCA output, and how does it not clip at reference volume?
I would probably have to more technically research this question to give a fully valid answer. XLR runs hotter than RCA, right? It runs louder because it runs, I think it's essentially higher voltage. I don't know the differences in the peaks. And I've never dealt with any problems. I pretty much run everything. Well, almost everything in my setup is XLR. A little bit for the living room is not, but that'll change coming up with the NAD. So yeah, I've never had to tweak it, I guess. Output voltages from a pre to an amp based on the cable. I've never had any specific troubles with that. It's always just worked fine connecting things and using them.
Yeah, I'm in the old school camp of I'm still using just my AVR. I don't have pre-outs, so I have no. My eventual, I would love to. That's another like kind of pipe dream that I'm kind of working on, is to get something with pre-outs and go the separate amp route, because I've heard that in other places, but whenever you hear or demo something in your own home, it hits different. So I'd love to hear like the difference that having decent amount of power instead of the little piddly however many watts times 7 channels my old X2300W is pushing out. I'd be curious to see what kind of improvements I see with that, having that kind of power. But cool. James asks, Jeremy, are you running a scope screen? And if so, are you doing the zoom method or a lens or processing like MadVR?
So I use the zoom method. Yeah, scope screen. It's 163 inch Seymour center stage XD. I zoom the projector up. I have, I think, 4 or 5 lens memories set. I got a 16:9 lens memory. I got a 185, and then I've got like a 235, and then I've got a couple other special ones for watching goofy stuff, like as I discovered, like watching The Boys on Amazon Prime. It's an ultra widescreen show, but they put the stupid subtitles halfway into the black space and halfway into the image. So sometimes you have, so that's where the processor would
can move those subtitles up.
It would pop in and out, and MadVR and stuff would take care of that. So in lieu of having a processor, you have to manage that yourself, and so it pays to have a couple of intermediate zoom levels depending on what you're watching. But for the most part, I only really ever use the 3, 178, 185, and then like basically a 235. And you use the masking features in the projector itself. So if there is any overspill, right, you can mask it out with the unit and JVC and other models as well. They let you lock all that stuff in. Control 4 makes it a breeze to pull up different modes and swap between them. And if I want to, I can even fully automate it, because the Kaleidoscape sends the aspect ratio cues to the control system. So you start playback of a movie with a certain aspect ratio, and you can get the control automation trigger to put the projector in its lens memory mode. So we'll see how things go again once I fire the Slumigen up, how I feel about that. But I feel like to get the most out of it, especially depending on your other gear, you kind of need the lens and the processor. And I think I still contend that if I had 25G burning a hole in my pocket and I had to spend it on the theater, I'm probably still buying an NZ9 and not a MadVR Plus lens, which itself would be a $20,000 plus purchase.
Yeah,
I think I would just get the projector.
Yeah. I think that is a good idea. I don't have much in the way of experience with that, but it would kind of make more sense to me in my brain right now in the moment to go that projector route, because you're going to get more mileage out of that. I think, in my opinion, at least.
I mean, cost no option do them all.
Right. Yeah. I mean, do everything,
do everything. But if you have to make choices,
yeah. And I think we're all in that. We're not a lot of people are in that position where like the choice to go either all or pick and choose. We're all pretty much picking and choosing. Like we can't just afford everything that we want right now.
To me, I just couldn't fathom. And maybe some more experience could change my mind. So I reserve the right when I hopefully do get a chance to play with the Mad VR someday, and get some more experience with other system elements like that firsthand. Maybe I'll feel differently about it. But knowing what I know and playing with what I played with to date, if I had that money and I had to make choices, I just can't fathom not putting it all into the projector itself.
Yeah.
So until you hit at least like 25K. Yeah. So they did it all. So there's a lot of conjecture, right? It's like, well, you're better off with an Epson 12,000 in a Mad VR than an NZ9. And it's like, well, maybe in some elements of picture quality and all that could be the case.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of power in lens memory and automation. Like you can already do a lot. So
yeah, I think like Michael said, they'll have a bunch of different stuff to play with at Mwave. So if a lot of people are on the fence and you could swing the trip to Kansas City,
yeah, Mike and I were talking about it. I don't know what I'm going to do this year for some channel related travel. Basically, we've got Audio Advice, we've got the Mwave show, and we've got Cedia. And I would love to do all of them. One, I probably don't have enough vacation time or necessarily channel budget to do all. But we'll be on a family vacation in Southwest Kentucky over the same days of Mwave. That's already booked. We got a lake house in some like national park area there. So I unfortunately am already booked for Mwave, but we'll see about the other two.
Yeah. Awesome. And Arturo actually asks, speaking of Mwave, Mr. Brad, what is Mwave? Mwave is something that I've never been to. It's something that my friend Michael, Youthman, as a lot of people know him, and his business partner Ryan put together. They have like projector shootouts. Michael would do a way better job of describing what this is because it's literally his baby. And it's kind of becoming a like last year was the very first year that they did this, and they had some brands that came and they did some projector shootouts, some audio stuff. And this year is going to be even bigger. So I'm hoping I'll be able to make it out to that. And kind of show my support there as well as, film some content for Michael. Cause that's what we've been actually talking about. Cause he wants somebody kind of on the scene, recording a bunch of different stuff that, for brands and for him. And that they can also use for, the following year to kind of show people like what it actually is, because when you hear Mwave, you kind of, you're like Midwest audio video experience. What's that? So like you can go to the website, which I'll leave a link. I don't have a link to it.
I think you just go mwave.com, right?
I think so. Yeah. And you can find out all about it there.
I would call it like an industry supported fan enthusiast kind of convention.
Yeah.
If you've ever done like a fan convention for something else. It's not the trade. It's not a trade show like Cedia is or CES is.
Right.
More of a personal experience fan convention kind of thing.
And it's kind of the brainchild of Youthman and his business partner. So like Michael doesn't really have a hand in any of these pots. Like he doesn't have like a preference. Like he wants everyone to have a great experience regardless of like what brands are involved and whatnot. So it's really when you go, it's not like tailored just for super uber high end stuff. Like they have a bunch of different things that you can experience. I think D-Box is going to be there.
Oh, he's got a whole stack.
I think either that or the Croson might be. He mentioned something to me, and I'm sorry, Michael, if I'm butchering it. but yeah, definitely check out the website because he's and also you can follow him on Facebook or YouTube.
Yep.
And he's been posting updates about like, you know, when they get kind of new brands on. I think Per Listen's gonna be there this year. They got a couple of demo rooms. JTR is gonna be there.
Yeah, they keep
That's some high end stuff.
They keep announcing new experiences. So
yeah, so awesome. Yeah, just be on the lookout. Be on the lookout for that.
I'd love to have gone this time, but I thought about, if there was a way I could have gone to Kansas City, if it would have been a little more ahead of the family trip.
Yeah.
And then I could have like drove or something from Kansas City over to Kentucky and met up with everybody, but it's logistically, it's not going to work out. I don't think.
Yeah.
Not for my marriage.
And that's important. Hamza asked, did it soundproof pretty well so you can play movies really loud? Any other tips?
Talk about your room.
I think you may be talking about my room. It's not soundproof. It is sound absorbent. A lot of sound does not escape the room. I've actually done tests where I normally only listen to movies at like the max I do is like -10, just because in that small of a space, like it's just to me that can even be kind of loud sometimes depending on the movie. If it's a Christopher Nolan movie, forget it. It's like -30. But I've walked outside to kind of hear like what sound spills out, and you do hear a little bass, just as if like a car was passing by that was kind of maybe not necessarily blaring loud music, but you just kind of get a little bit of bass. But I was actually really impressed with how little sound escapes the room. You know, in our old house, a big problem was watching a movie, my wife being in the bedroom right next to the big living room, and she could hear everything. Whereas like this, she hears like some remnants because the master bedroom's on the opposite side of the house. So she hears some stuff, but it's nowhere near enough to like wake her up or keep her up. It's really like, again, it's not soundproof, but because of the absorption in the room, especially with the door closed, which we always leave the door closed because we have a cat and really expensive theater seats.
Don't touch the room.
And we don't the cat, we don't declaw our animals because that's inhumane. So yeah, cat's not allowed in the theater room with those theater seats, those Valencia seats. But yeah, I think my tip would be really to just try to get the placement right of the acoustic panels for your first reflection points, especially. Like start there. You could use you could watch a bunch of different videos on how to do it. You can use the mirror trick, which is where you basically sit in your main listening position and have someone use them, like walk a mirror along the wall. And if you could, you see a speaker, mark it with a piece of painter's tape or something. That's where, you should, that's a first reflection point basically. And that's what I did. And then I, got some acoustic I made some acoustic stuff to put above the seats, which is another area where you kind of want to pay attention to. But yeah, and also like, don't think that you have to do 100% of it right away. I think that's what a lot of people tend to kind of get overwhelmed with, is like, I did that only because like I was able to do it and I was making the panels and I had all the materials. But you don't have to like figure everything out all at once. You just do it in little steps. It's kind of like, you don't have to go to the gym for 3 or 4 hours a day to get into shape. If you go for half an hour a day, you're more likely to keep it up. And that's not even a good analogy. I don't know why I said that.
Small steps.
Too much of this.
Small steps over a long period of time.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Finish line. Yeah. I need to do that same test in my room. Actually, it's been a little while since I've done it, and I'm curious to see, just in the current state of anything else that I've tweaked around or modified up lately, is like how loud is it elsewhere in the house when the theater is really rolling? Because I feel like in the last few months, several months, like we've had occasions where we've had a lot of different people over. I've had like local guys come by and hang out a couple of times, ABS forum meetup guys, a couple of parties or whatever that we had. And so I've had a lot of different people through my room giving demos, crankable demos, Ready Player One, Batman car chase scene, all that stuff. And the family the family comments how like basically upstairs, like they could basically watch the movie because they can hear it that much. And I think I did compromise the room a little bit by going with the in walls, and particularly the in ceilings, which I didn't realize at the time, those focales they're not closed back in, in walls and ceilings, they're open back. And so I think more noise energy gets through there than did before. But yeah, I'm curious to know what the reality is, because I think my volume level and the family's volume levels are not level matched. I tend to like things a little louder than them. So I don't know if they're like really exaggerating, or really how much leakage does come through. I need to run that experiment.
Yeah, if I'm watching something by myself, it's louder than when I watch with my wife, because I know what she finds comfortable. I also have some hearing loss from playing drums for many years without hearing protection, and being in bands and all that stuff through middle school, high school. You make stupid mistakes and decisions, and I wear earphones. I think this came up in a live streams that Youthman did about, do you listen at reference level? No, that's really loud. That's
right.
I mean, that's exceedingly loud most of the time. And but yeah, I do like things a little louder. I do feel that even with the hearing loss and tinnitus and stuff that I have, -10 is about the max I'll go. And if I'm doing like a quick short demo where I really like want to like feel the shotgun blasts and John Wick Chapter 3, I can crank it up to -5 just for that one scene.
Right.
But then I'm quickly like, okay, I can't. This is too loud. Like this is.
I don't think I go crazy loud. I've been around a lot to other folks' rooms for meetups and demo nights and that, and some of the other guys in like the Michigan group, they run really hot. And I to the point where I was like amazed. Like I was plugging my ears during demos to be comfortable. Yeah. And then it's like, you guys really listen, do you really play your movies this loud when you're in here? And like, yeah, I'm like, oh wow. I couldn't do that. My job in high school, I ran a vacuum cleaner at a nursing home, like an industrial vacuum cleaner, and I never wore ear protection. So I did that job, 4 hours a night, a couple nights a week, between the ages of whatever 14 and 17. So I probably should go to like an audiologist and get measured and tested and see kind of where I fall, because some circumstances would suggest that maybe there's some things that I don't hear as well, but then I hear other stuff that like astounds me. Like we got these little dimmers for the holidays. They weren't like Bluetooth timers, right? You plug them in the outlet and then you plug your Christmas lights into them, but they were like dial based. So you like you push in on this time dial to set it. It's it wasn't Bluetooth smart or anything like that. So it was this like mechanical system, and sitting in the living room with no other noise, I could hear right. I could hear the ticking of this dial. And it's driving me crazy, and like nobody else can hear that. And it's like, I don't even know how I can hear this, but it's like, oh my God, like, take that thing and throw it out the front door.
That's like
driving me nuts.
That's like Captain Hook and Hook, where you can hear the ticking of the clock. You're like, nobody else can hear it but him, and his little mustache starts to. Yeah, I'm the same way. If something's very like very specific, like I can hear like speaker hum that my wife is like, I don't know what you're talking about. But I'm like, do you hear that? Like, do you hear that the amp hum from the subwoofer amp or whatever? And it's not a problem on most of, but like a subwoofer I used to have a long time ago had that issue, and it was annoying because like you'd be sitting there in like a quiet room, and as you got closer to it, it's like, I'm like, come on, man. So yeah, hearing definitely important. I probably need to go do the same like. As you're talking about, because I know that my hearing's like at least like above like 17, 18 kilohertz. It's gone. It's just there's nothing there. I'm playing test tones. I'm like, I don't even hear that. Like it's just like whoop, it just stops. But
that'd be a fun video. You'd go do that and make
it. Oh my God. I'd be scared. I'm like, well, guys, I got hearing aids.
Yeah, right.
What?
Glasses and hearing aids now.
Right. That's it, man. I'm already like I don't have hair, so I already got that going for me. Let's see. Hockey player asks, gents, do you think that adding a third set of ceiling mounted height speakers is a good idea for an AVM 70, 90, or Marantz AV10? Trinev Type 16 plus channel processor owners. It's really, I think he may have commented on the size of his room.
I think he's got quite the setup, because I think he also talked about he's running the GTZ 380.
Yeah. So depending, and I'm trying to scroll through here to see if he mentioned, depending on the room size, 20 by 18. So I think you could probably get away with doing that. In some of the smaller rooms, actually adding a third set of ceiling mounted height speakers can make things sound worse because you don't have enough separation.
Yep.
I don't know that you'd have a problem there. As long as you basically want to go, like, if you're talking about Atmos, you just basically want to go top front, top middle, and top rear, right? Like you want to try to follow that pretty much to a T. Otherwise, it's kind of if you can't space them out enough, if you don't have enough space between each set, it kind of doesn't make sense to do it.
Yeah, same. I would only do it based on room size and depending on what kind of seat rows you're trying to address as well.
Yeah.
I don't remember the specific seat layout of your room. We've been chatting offline.
Oh, okay.
But like for me, with one row of seats, no reason. Two pairs, perfect. One a little in front, one a little behind, or whatever, and that's it.
I only I mean, you've seen my room. I have 2 seats. So we don't ever have company over, really. And when we do, it's more like the room is used for like quick demos. People are like, what does it sound like? Just blow them out and be like, okay, yeah, we're going to leave now. But yeah. I was talking to, because my room is very small, as I've mentioned before. It's like 11 by 13 or 12 by 13, something like that. And adding a third set, like I wired for 6 height speakers, knowing full well that I would probably never use those. But I figured, you know what, it might be cool to kind of test different configurations at some point. Because it's a drop ceiling, I'm able to just swap things out, mix it, flexibility, and will make for a cool video at some point that I'll eventually get around to doing. But in talking with like a couple of like integrators and people that actually design stuff, you're like, yeah, for that size room, you definitely wouldn't want to go 6. Like you don't have enough separation there. Like top fronts and top rears would like benefit you greatly from having, that movement. But like you don't have enough separation between 6 speakers in the ceiling to really benefit.
Yeah, he added there as well 2 rows and the occasional beanbag. So part of it too depends on how much do you care about the third row or the second row. Right. I wouldn't care too much about the beanbags. Those are, for me, we keep beanbags in the rooms too. The beanbags are the kids.
Yeah.
Want to lay on the floor, and your audio, quality of the room has already been blown out the door just probably by laying in the front of the room on the floor. And I don't need to go to the extra mile to put 2 more speakers above you.
I think most people, if they're sitting on a beanbag, they're not really too concerned about are these speakers time aligned to my ears on the ground here on the beanbag?
Yeah. And even the second row, like I mentioned, I'd like to flip the room around someday, pull it down to the studs, rebuild it back up again. And I probably would do 2 rows then, because I would actually be able to do it with a mirrored image of the space. But that second row is going to be very close to the back wall. It's going to be a compromise row, and it would be more for piling people in than for worrying about the quality of their experience. For the most part, anybody that I know, most of my friends and family circles that I would probably put ever in that back row, if we were to actually use it, are not audio videophile people anyway. So they could have the worst seat in my room. It's going to be the best experience they've ever had in a home theater.
And I think that's something that I always, like, because of my OCD and stuff, I'm always thinking, what does it sound like in this other seat? Like, because I sit in one seat and my wife sits in the other. I'm like, well, let me see what it sounds like. And I'm like, if I can't really tell much of a difference, my wife's going to have a good time and you know, whatever we watch. And we don't really ever go to the theater, even though we don't have like, you know, the biggest screen or anything. It's a much more comfortable experience for us being at home.
I agree.
We're very much introverts. So let's see, moving on here. Terminator Juice asks, does a mini DSP not go into standby? The blue light is always on and the unit feels fairly warm at all times. That thing is on 24/7 when it's plugged in. There's no standby offered on that. It's something that I kind of wish they would add, because like you said, it does get fairly warm. I have mine mounted in like a makeshift way on the back of my entertainment stand with like big paper clips and zip ties and stuff that just kind of works. And it doesn't go anywhere, but it does get kind of warm. But yeah, it's kind of just on 24/7. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. I don't notice any ill effects from it. Or like any buzzing or anything. I know that in certain situations when I've set them up at a friend's house that had a much more complicated system than I have, he was having trouble getting the amps for his subs to turn on because of the voltage that it wasn't putting it, like he had to really crank the volume before it would send anything to the subs. So yeah, that was kind of like maybe an outlier issue that I haven't ever run into in just a more of a traditional home theater setup, because he had like separate amps for his subs. And I think a lot of people that are just getting into the mini DSP stuff are running with subs that have, you know, the amps built in, basically. They're not like architectural or anything like that. Let's see here. Techthusiasm. John asks, I'm looking for a set of bookshelf speakers for my theater setup. What do you recommend?
Do you have a budget, John? If you're still on and you have a budget, toss it up.
Yeah, that's all important. The budget. It's
Vocal Utopia Diablos. Go for it.
How much do those run? Because I'm not familiar with those off the top of my head.
Shoot, I don't even know. 15 grand a speaker, maybe more.
That's it. I mean, not like you could buy a car for that or anything, right? That's crazy. 15 grand.
Let's see. I'm trying to...
If anybody ever wonders how budget conscious I am, very. I'm like, I could not spend 15 grand on a speaker.
Price here. Oh, wait, here. 10.5.
10.5. I mean, still, I mean, you're talking about 2,100 for two speakers. I think that is you know,
for 21,000.
Yeah, 20. Did I say 2,100? Jeez.
Yeah.
21,000. Yeah, why not? Just go for it. Just go for it.
So that would be amongst what I would consider to be the top end of an awesome pair of bookshelves. I like Focal, but you can go down the line. So really, pick whatever fits the budget. If that's a Sopra, if that's a Canta, or even into the core lines or whatever, if it's more budget.
Yeah. So he's looking at 600. So I think those Focals are a little bit out of price range there for him. Yeah. See, it's a good question. There's so many things that you could recommend, but I mean, he's asking you, so I'm putting you on the spot. But I don't have enough experience with bookshelves in that price range to really say, hey, go with this one over this one. Yeah, it's kind of difficult to.
Yeah, well, a Focal Cora 806 is $598 a pair.
So what you're saying is you're a fan of Focal, Jeremy?
Yeah, I haven't said it yet on any videos, but I'm going to start calling myself a folk boy, I think.
Folk boy. Be careful how you phrase that, because it sounds... let's see. Sounds a little...
It sounds questionable. Yeah.
It sounds questionable. Let's see. We're winding down the questions here. This has just become like an AMA, QA.
Yeah, no, it's all good.
It's good, man. We're just hanging out, talking about fun stuff. Julius asks, have either of you used a VR headset? If so, how did you like it? You wanna kick this one off? I got some experience.
Yeah. So I put on at work, we had some years ago, we had like one of the, I don't even know what it was, some Oculus, because one of the dev teams was building some like automotive environment, visualization development environment kind of stuff with it. So that was like the one and only time that I've had a chance to put a regular like home use commercial VR helmet on, and it threw me for a loop right away. I didn't like it, but I can't like ride a theater park rides, and if I'm sitting in a chair and I turn my head too fast the wrong way, like I'll get dizzy. So
Yeah.
I think there's, I don't know if it's getting older a little bit or what, but I think there's certain elements, a couple of elements of technology so far where I think I will hit my wall, and like I'll be the Luddite, and I will just say like I don't need like that level of tech, and I think VR is that for me.
I think I do suffer from motion sickness, depending on the. I mean, with VR especially, like frame rate is very important. So the lower frame rate stuff just makes me super nauseous, like within seconds of having it on. Which is why, like I remember I tried the PSVR, the original one, not the new PSVR 2, and I was really interested to try it out, but the combination of like the resolution at the time on like the PS4 Pro, and then the low kind of, the low frame rate really, and I don't even think it was low. I think it was maybe 60, 90 frames per second, something like that per eye. It was just, yeah, it was kind of a nauseating experience. I was playing I can't remember the name of the game. It was like a kind of like a space flight simulator thing, and you could do like barrel rolls and stuff. And as soon as I did that, I'm like, this is cool, but I also feel like I want to barf. Like I want to just, which is unfortunate because there's a couple of VR games that I've always really wanted to check out. Psychonauts and the Rhombus of Ruin has been one. I actually just watched this whole documentary on YouTube that the developers of the game recently released called Psych Odyssey. It's like a 22-hour documentary, 32 parts, going over the entire 7-year development cycle of Psychonauts 2. Oh, wow. And if you're ever interested in how games are made, the good, the bad, the ugly, they didn't shy away from anything, which was very surprising. Even when they were like acquired by Microsoft. So that was really interesting to watch. Kind of gave me a new appreciation for the people that make these games. But I really want to try that because it looked cool. And then there's something about wanting to try Resident Evil Village in VR. I want to try that at some point. I think one of my friends just got the PSVR 2, so I might have to go over to his house just to see, like, what's going on. See if he would mind if I shoot a video while I'm there just to kind of talk about it. Yeah, kind of cool. Maybe a little fun, like off the cuff. Fun time.
We'll see where that stuff goes, I guess. I guess I won't completely discount it. My point of view right now is I think it's something that doesn't necessarily appeal to me, and I definitely won't go out of my way to seek it out.
Yeah.
But wherever technology goes, I guess. Yeah. So we'll see.
I don't want to be in like a Ready Player One world, just because I don't know, like I can get so invested in games as it is. 30, 40, 50. Skyrim, I think I have over 400 hours in over the course of, when I like 12, 13 years at this point. So it's really easy for me to kind of get lost in those worlds sometimes. And I feel like VR would not be a good, I'd just be like, I don't need reality anymore. Just live in this world.
Just stay in there all the time.
Just stay in there. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm good with the real world.
Right. And I also think that a lot of VR definitely relies on like binaural audio. So like having headphones on is kind of a requirement almost because of head tracking and things. But I wish there was a way they would figure out how to implement like home theater, because it would be super cool. Even if you're like sitting in a seat, you could turn your head and stuff. But like, you already have like the PSVR 2 has haptic feedback in the headset itself, but like having the actual like audio energy in the room instead of just like being, either through bass or whatever, just having that experience, I think, especially with like Dolby Atmos, I think would eclipse the experience with headphones, at least in my opinion, because I don't play games with headphones a lot. So I always feel like when I do, I miss out.
Yeah. I like the audio in the room as well, but I might be shopping for some headphones here soon.
Yeah.
We'll see. I've been the other reason I'm just like using the microphones and stuff, because earbuds have really been bugging my ears lately.
Yeah.
I think this is a good reason actually to go see an audiologist and go get measured. Like I've had a lot of pain. I think actually the cold I have was exacerbated by the response of having earbuds in my ears too much, and it's been bugging me, like consistently getting worse and worse and worse. So for work all day, I sit at my computer all day and have just regular Apple earbuds in my ears, and I can't take it anymore.
Yeah.
So I think
pressure,
I'm gonna buy or look for some kind of headphones. I might look at like a pair of Focal Bathies or something like that.
Okay.
But we'll see.
Oh, let's see. We got some more questions here. Is there anything you want to talk about before we carry on, Jeremy? I know you just mentioned.
No, I mean, when people are asking questions, if anybody's got any specific questions about like any of the last content that Brad or I put out, fire away on those things.
Helps if you put a Q in the front, big capital Q, so we can see it. Makes it really easy to mark it and get to it. So even though we're going through the questions, we have about 8 right now, a queue of 8. So we're not ignoring you. We're just going through the queue in order. You know,
that $25,000 NZ9 super chat will get you to the front of the 8.
Yes, immediately. We will stop what we're talking about, even though YouTube will take most of it.
I'll come to your house and we'll answer it in person.
And knock on the door 5 seconds later. What? How did that happen? Oh, goodness. Let's see here. So Joseph asks, what's your favorite room correction software? Oh, this is kind of a loaded question. None preferably, but I don't know. I would say I really like what Dirac's doing. But I tend to I'm kind of in this whole mindset right now of moving away from room correction and going the DIY full manual route, because I kind of done that with everything else. So I'm like, well, this is just the next logical step for me. You know, room correction can be great, but it can also be done poorly, depending on many factors, and I'm not even talking about you know, the actual software itself. I'm talking about the usability from the user standpoint. There's a lot of errors in the way that you can go about doing stuff with like Odyssey.
Do more damage than good.
Yeah. And I think people are starting to look at room correction, and I don't know if this is maybe the wrong viewpoint, but what I'm noticing is people are kind of looking at all of these new like spatial correction things that a lot of these companies have announced as kind of like the end all be all. And I'm like, we're kind of forgetting that room correction is only going to do so much in a room. It's not going to take a really bad room and make it sound really amazing. It's going to take a really bad room and maybe make it sound a bit better. But like, you know, it's not going to like replace proper, you know, room treatment or setup or anything like that. So it can make certain problems worse. It can make certain problems better. It can fix certain things, but it can't fix others. I think as we get into a point where I know like with ARC, I was talking to Stephen Smith about this, because I was talking about how just awful Odyssey does at like actually setting the delays of each speaker in terms of like just looking at the impulse response, going through that process and seeing how far off these were from each other from the main listening position. It was astounding. So I think like ARC actually goes through and time aligns it to like the left speaker. Like all the other speakers are time. Yeah. So that's really cool. That's a really like step in the right direction, because that alone makes a massive improvement, making sure all the sounds arrive at the right time. Like you'd be amazed at what like 5 to 10 milliseconds will do, right? Like that's a pretty big deal.
I use the Phantom Center in the living room, and I wonder if the fact that Anthem, that ARC does that time alignment stuff helps make the Phantom Center work so well, because I feel confident about what it's doing. And it could be helping that quite a lot. Yeah, my answer to this question is just automatic. It's automatic. I have been that hasn't been perfect, so I don't want to be Pollyanna or whatever. There's been some network snafus and some firmware snafus, and so they haven't Anthem hasn't nailed every single thing about these, but I have the AVM70, I have an STR, and I have an MDX, and I run ARC. Well, I haven't done it yet for the audio zones because the MDX is new and I just haven't had the time to do it yet. But ultimately, I'll have ARC in all of my rooms. If you, I like Gene and Audioholics and the stuff that they've covered on Anthem lately, because it's been like my total confirmation bias, like listening to them say the same things that I felt I discovered, individually on my own, the reasons that I like the brand, the results that I got with it. Talking about the usability part, I think Arc Genesis and Anthem's web menus and stuff are some of the absolute best usability designed software platforms in home theater for controlling the device and being like understandable but powerful and all of that, and getting good results. I trust what it does. It does time alignment, it does phase integration. So all this stuff that, if you have the time and wherewithal and you want to learn and you want to understand it, you want to do all those things like you're talking about, Brad, that's awesome. Yeah. For me, like that's not something that I probably have a super amount of interest to do, nor necessarily have maybe that of all the things that I could do when I'm using my system. I'm very happy trusting Anthem to take care of that stuff for me. And I feel the results are pretty solid. Yeah. And, I've had a number of people come through the room, and not just like the non-audiophile, videophile family and friends, but local AVS guys that have pretty significant rooms, and everybody leaves really impressed with like the level of detail and the audio, just the overall audio quality experience of my room. So,
yeah. And I think that going the route that I've chosen is not for everyone. Mm-hmm. It takes a very specific mindset and a very specific kind of need and want to do that, to go through that, all of that, which is honestly why I haven't done all of it, because I know the amount of time it will take. And it's awesome that we have all these kind of free tools like Room EQ Wizard and stuff, mm-hmm. especially like the new beta where you can do vector averaging and cross correlation and all this. It's crazy that this thing is out there for free for people to use, as long as you have like a measurement microphone. But it's not for the faint of heart, because like I mentioned earlier, it's a slippery slope that you fall down that rabbit hole, and that rabbit hole is pretty much endless. Like, how far do you want to go? And that's why I sometimes, I just want to go watch a movie instead of fiddling with a bunch of different. It's like, I'm going to get 10%, 5% more performance out of my system. Is it going to be worth the 10, 12, 15 hours I got to put in to get it? And then ask myself, do I want to make a video about this, which is going to add another 30 hours of production and all that stuff. So
that slows everything down.
Yeah. All those. Yeah. A lot of people don't know that the REW tutorials and mini DSP tutorials that I've done have taken however long the videos are, just multiply it by like 10. And that's how long it probably took me, because I did it multiple times before, just so I didn't, kind of mess up a lot in the video. Let's see here. Let's move on. This is actually a good question. BJ Broderick asked, do you prefer Infuse over Plex? I'm looking for Plex alternative, as Plex has been really glitchy across all my devices. So I'll kick this one off here real quick, because I have numerous issues with Plex. And I don't know if it's because I'm using the Shield TV Pro, which I'm not sponsored by Shield and or NVIDIA, and I likely never will be after what I'm about to say. I think that device is kind of a piece of junk in a lot of ways. As a streamer box, I have to constantly reboot it. I'm playing movies off an SSD, all my movie rips. And it's just like, most of the time Plex will just glitch out so much. And I've tried Kodi, and I'm just not a fan of Kodi. So I've actually been looking at like something like a Zedu or a Zedu. I don't know how you say it. That's how you say it. Something that's just dedicated to that because I don't have the money for Kaleidoscape, right? And I don't use any of the streaming features on the Shield. It's literally just for Plex.
Yeah.
So I've looked at Infuse, but the biggest thing for me is the lack of the audio codecs on the Apple TV 4K or Apple 4K TV, which is why I stopped, I stopped looking into it, because that's the whole point of me ripping my library and making, I've even gone to the point of literally creating, smaller files out of, all of my go-to demo scenes, right? I mean, that way I could just have a folder where it's just demos. I can go, bam, Ready Player One race scene, bam, this scene from this movie, bam. And so they're all like the time codes are there. And those are actually one of the few things that typically work flawless, because I think as the file gets bigger, if you're using like an MKV container, I don't know whatever happens with Plex, it's direct streaming or whatnot.
Bogs it down.
Yeah, and it's all hooked up directly to the Shield with, quality cables, and I've tested the speeds and everything, and everything's good with the actual drives and speeds that I'm getting, but some type of bottleneck somewhere, I don't know. So I don't have Infuse, but I am looking for an alternative to Plex because I'm not in love with it anymore. I don't know. Do you have any insight with that, Jeremy?
Yep. So I really am a big proponent of Infuse. I bought it. I have the lifetime license. There's a couple of videos on the channel. If you search the channel for Infuse, a little while back, not just pretty recently, I think towards the end of last year, I did like kind of an Infuse review, and I made a couple other videos about using it and some areas for improvement and all of that.
Yeah.
I think if you're an Apple ecosystem user, and so I say this as a Apple ecosystem user, I've got a MacBook, I've got an iPad, I've got an iPhone. We subscribe to Apple Music. We use Apple TVs. I don't want another box for that purpose, but I have the Kaleidoscape, so I don't necessarily rely on Rips as my main home theater content source.
Yeah.
And so I'm fine giving up that, that one thing that if Infuse could bitstream lossless Atmos and DTSX, it would be completely game over, I think.
Yeah.
It Infuse is very powerful. It's very customizable. It doesn't come with a lot of the extra capability, but in some ways too, instability and baggage, I think, that Plex also can bring to the table, right? You don't have to actually set up a server. You just set up your files, you set up your shares, you point Infuse to them, and you get a little bit of like the ability to correct metadata mismatches and some other things like that. You can set custom posters, and so Plex is more powerful, no doubt about it. Plex is more powerful, but for an Apple ecosystem user, you just can't beat it. Infuse is everywhere through the Apple ecosystem. It iCloud syncs itself. So, if you want to watch your rips on your MacBook, you want to watch them on your iPad, you want to watch them on your Apple TV, it's all the same setup. There's so many stellar virtues to it in that regard. You just can't bitstream those codecs. And we'll see, maybe someday, somehow, some way that'll change. I'm kind of really curious to see what happens at WWDC this year. I'm kind of waiting to see if any other streaming services come out to say they're going to do DTS along with Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Because then that might force Apple's hands to start really thinking about codec supports and other things for the box, because I don't think they'll want to leave that behind. They'll go get the DTS license for the Apple TV. And then once all that goes down, maybe, just maybe, things could push forward a little bit. And then it wasn't that long ago, just a few weeks ago, I think, it was announced the Fire TVs getting lossless bitstream output. So,
wow.
So they
got some competition
things are happening
now
already. Yeah, this year. Not that I would really recommend a Fire TV much, but just the fact that other companies are doing more things with codec support and audio support can hopefully be, put some more pressure on for that to happen. But
we kind of need to put, Apple typically needs that push to see that there's a market there, because they're normally, I mean, I'm in the Apple ecosystem, but I don't mind saying that they're normally behind on a lot of the stuff just in their, I mean, not just in their phones, but in general, right? Like they're just kind of behind the times. They kind of wait until something is more stable on another platform. They're like, hey, look what we have now. It's like, well, this other platform has already had this for a while. It's nothing new, Apple, but hopefully we can squeeze the pressure on Apple and
so yeah, if it's your only solution, you have a theater with immersive audio channels, and giving that up in Infuse is a bit of a bummer.
Yeah,
but that's all it gives up. So
yeah. Let's see. Travis asks here. So the large price difference between the Marantz Cinema 50 and the Denon X3800H is the price difference warranted? Seems to me on paper to be almost identical outside of their aesthetics. I don't have those in front of me. I think I was looking. I mean, if they're on paper like identical, I don't know. Like normally with like you'd think with Marantz, like the Marantz would have like slightly higher build quality.
Yeah,
like more quality. But again, I'm not looking at it in front of me.
Denon and Marantz models have always tracked, right?
Yeah,
relatively speaking, and you're paying for what like made in Japan, and you're paying for the specific Marantz fixings.
right.
If that appeals
The aesthetics
to you,
as well,
yeah,
like as you mentioned.
Yeah.
I feel like that gap kind of closed over the years too. Like there used to be a much wider gap between like here is like a similar model Marantz and a similar model Denon, but like the gap was much wider. And then over the years that kind of narrowed down with their kind of top end models. Like, for all intents and purposes, the Cinema 50 and the X3800H seem to be pretty much the same thing. So like
Juan just commented, right? You're paying for HDM circuitry and some of that stuff, which depending on who you're asking, some people would say that's just distortion.
Yeah.
And the Denon is the better unit anyway.
Yeah.
But
I think if you're going like pre-outs, if you're not concerned with like the actual internal amplification, I think that going with a Denon and saving some money there might be the right choice. That's the way I'm thinking of it. Like I don't know that I could justify the extra cost of the Marantz if my whole purpose is just to go pre-outs to a different amplifier. I'm not concerned with anything within the circuitry there in terms of like, are the preamps any good? That's all I'm worried about.
I used both in my theater space. I was Marantz. I had a 7702 and then a 7704, and then that's what I got rid of. Or was it? No, it wasn't the 6. I think I had an 02 and an 04 because I had to go from the 02 to the 04 to get Atmos processing.
Yeah.
And then I never upgraded it from there. And then I went from that to the Anthem, basically. But I chose Marantz over Denon because there wasn't a Denon specific preamp.
Right.
So in that brand family, if you wanted a dedicated preamp, you have to buy Marantz. So
Gotcha. All right. So we have about 7 more questions left here. I think we're going to try to wrap up this stuff because we've been going about 2 hours and 15 minutes. Yeah. So if you have any last minute questions, put a capital Q in the front so we can see it really easily, and we'll try to get through these pretty quickly here. Lightning round, yeah. And if you want to throw a super chat in there, much appreciated. Not required or obligated to do so at all. But if you want to show your support for both Jeremy and myself, you could throw us a little bit of money, buy a coffee, whatever you want to do. Again, not required. Always appreciated, though. So lightning round time. Jay Just Games asks, does Mini DSP and REW mean you can put your subs anywhere? Sub crawl not needed if you have REW and Mini DSP. Absolutely not. You still need to put the subs in the best possible place you can put them, depending on where you have space available to you. The Mini DSP and REW are really just kind of tools that allow you to get more out of your subwoofers and time align them. REW in particular means that you don't need to do the sub crawl, like where you put the sub on your couch and then crawl around the room. You can actually just move the sub around the room, mark those positions and take measurements, and then pick the best one. Mm-hmm. And that kind of negates the you try moving or putting a 200 or 300 pound sub on your couch. You don't need to do that with REW, thankfully. So yeah, you still needed it to make sure that they're placed as best as they can be. A lot of times if you're just doing 2 subs, co-locating them, or you have like one in the front right corner, one in the rear left corner, or vice versa, on the left side and the right side, is typically a great place to start. But take those measurements of each sub individually, move them around, and see what you get. That's what I recommend doing, and that's kind of how I set everything up.
That's what I need to do.
Yeah, come on, man, get with it. I'll just fly to your house and we'll make a collaborated video there. Let's see. Moving on here. Robert asked, Youth Man, he's not here anymore. Does it matter if I plug my subs into the same surge protector as my receiver, or should it be on its own protector? I currently have a lot of stuff on it already. Receiver, TV, lamp, router. I think as long as you're not overloading the surge protector, I don't know that would matter too much. You're probably more than likely, if you're overloading the circuit or the breaker or whatever, then that's an issue. But
yeah, you still got to be careful with any kind of power protectors, depending on what you're buying, because they can still like current limit. And so a surge protector or some kind of a line conditioner could cut down, powerful amps or powerful subwoofers. So do some research, on what you're plugging into to see what it can handle. I've got a CyberPower UPS in my rack here that runs the majority of my stuff, but like when I switched over to the triple stack of Parasounds, they would trip it, especially on power up while they were filling up their capacitors and everything. It was too much of a draw, and it would go into protection mode until everything kind of stabilized and that. So I ended up buying this Furman so that I could have some protection on the amps, but also get them off of the UPS because they were too much for the UPS to handle.
Yeah.
And I did a bunch of research looking at the Furman, Furman as a pro audio type brand that specifically makes some models of their protection devices that are built for amplifiers and stuff. So you got to kind of research it more completely. And I was looking at these things a little bit more for when I move my living room gear up to the living room. And I think up there I was looking at something like what they call an Elite 15 PF1. And if you like, I'm trying to find this really quick, but reading through the details of what they say for this one, they specifically say like power factor technology provides 45 amps of peak charge surplus current for power starved amplifiers. So you could cut devices off if the protection equipment you're plugging them in isn't rated for that kind of current draw. So
yeah,
it does matter depending on what it is.
Yeah, I just want to highlight this because I had a cheaper or a lower like a lower rated backup UPS for my computer when I first built it, and as soon as I started playing a game, it screamed at me because I was trying to draw like 600 watts of power or something like that, and I had to go get a more beefier unit. So I just thought it was funny. So that's something to keep in mind too for people out there. Hockey Player, thank you so much for the super chat, buddy. Really appreciate it. Thanks for stopping by and asking questions. I hope that we were a help to you. And thanks for like just sticking around. Like that's why we do this. Like we want to help, people when we can. And just really appreciative that you, drop that in there. And thank you so much. Let's see here. We're moving on. He actually had a question. That's the next one. That's so weird. Can you guys comment on audio streamers? Do you like having an external box or what's integrated into your receiver pre-pro? Do you want to kick this one off here real quick?
Sure. So for me, we pretty much just base our music consumption on Apple Music. And I don't run any special streamers in the theater. I've got if we really want to listen to music in the theater, it's just Apple TV to the AVM 70. That gets you, 24, 192, the high bitrate music and the Dolby Atmos music as well. In the living room, it's basically the same thing. Only 2-channel up there, but it's Apple TV into the LG, 2-channel PCM back via optical along to the STR, which is able to preserve, 24 192, no Dolby Atmos and stuff up there. And then for our zone audio, we just AirPlay. Our zone audio is like, a couple of 6-inch round speakers, triad speakers in the kitchen and a few other rooms of the house. I've got Control 4 gives us AirPlay endpoints in every one of the zones where there's audio. And I couldn't even tell you if I'm being, bit rate or bandwidth limited.
Yeah.
For whatever the AirPlay is limited to. I'm sure it's cutting it down a little bit more. It might be whatever, 1648 or something.
Yeah.
But it's fine. It's ambient music, just to jam out a little bit in the kitchen or whatever. So I haven't considered a need for anything more than that, like a Hi-Fi Rose or a Blue Sound Node or anything. Perhaps when I get the living room project moved along to the way I want it, it will open up the opportunity to play around with some devices like that. Yeah. And I'm hoping to maybe, I don't know necessarily that I'll feel compelled to go out and buy them for myself, but once I'm set up to be able to do it, I'd love to reach out to some of those companies for like demo or review and see what happens. But yeah, for me now, like Apple Music serves all of our needs.
Yeah. I don't have a preference. I don't listen to music critically enough to really I can't justify the purchase of a box for that. Like I said, a lot of my music is just on headphones or on speakers out in the workout room. I don't sit. There's not many times where I sit down and listen and have ambient music playing in the background, unless we're having like company over, and then it's like the quality is not really important. It's just more about having that ambience. So
he made a follow up to that.
It's like
at the bottom there.
Here we go.
Yep. Versus having the TV on. So this is one of the reasons I was really jonesing to get my MDX installed and get the zone audio back up, because the family had put like several hundred hours on the LG G2 just playing music lyrics as music was playing in the living room, so that we could have audio around the house versus being able to use the kitchen zone. So I do agree with that. And I told the family along the way, I'm like, well, shoot, I'm like, after I noticed like, okay, the LG's got like 800 hours on it. I'm like, please turn the TV off. And then it's like, oh shoot, well, the Apple TV goes into HDMI into the TV, and then it's optical out. You turn the TV off, you kill the audio signal. Like, oh, so I can't do that. I think the remote or the LG probably has like a screen blanking feature that
you can actually use the audio thing on the remote to say turn off the screen, and it will turn off the screen. So I've used that numerous times because I'm very I'm actively avoiding burn-in, but I'm not babying the display most of the time. I just know if I'm leaving it on for whatever, I'm like, I don't really need to have this static logo on for the next 2 hours while I'm trying to do something here.
Right. So I never bothered to actually go figure out how to tell them to do that, because by the time I came to those realizations or whatever, now we've got this in and it's working great. But I think in the living room, one of my other thoughts potentially in the living room is, again, when I get the Salamander cabinet, all the gear is up there and everything is good. Probably there'll be an iPad mini upgrade in the household at some point.
Okay.
And I could take the iPad mini that's being retired, put it on a nice little stand, like a 3-point stand on top of that cabinet, USB-C out of the iPad mini to the USB DAC of the STR, which would actually get me like, I think 24, 384, like the higher Apple Music, if I could even hear that. Going back to what we were talking about earlier, I have no idea. But then you'd be able to walk up to that cabinet, open up the Apple Music app, pick something, play it, not have to even worry about the TV at all. And we would be able to use the high-end speakers and audio processing of the room, which would be akin to having like a Hi-Fi Rose or something that has a touch UI on the front that you could use. But my big hold up too is like, I'm really happy with Apple Music, and a Hi-Fi Rose, you'd have to go Tidal, Qobuz or something else than Apple Music. So
gets a little more complicated.
Yep.
Let's see. John Gonzalez asks, "What do you think of Zedu and Dune HD boxes? Looking at getting one." I think it's kind of like what we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
If you don't like, the reason I'm looking at it is I don't need any streaming capability. I don't need remote server access through Plex or whatever. I don't need Netflix or something. So I'm looking at the Zedu just to play my MKV rips from my library that I make, and all my demo files. So I haven't researched enough. I'm hoping to reach out to the company itself and maybe request a few different models, because they have like a couple, they have like the $200 one and the next step up, and just seeing like if we could work out something where like, to let me test them out, and then maybe let me keep the one that I like the most.
Yep.
For free advertising.
Yeah, Zedu, Dune, Zapedi are all in that trifecta. If you want a dedicated media playback box, those are what you would go look at. They all have their pros and cons.
Yeah. As long as it's not an NVIDIA Shield. I want to try something different for once.
It's funny talking about that Plex media sharing. I'll give us another little tangent, I guess, where we're trying to wrap up. But in the wild, I finally met somebody, and I discovered like that they're keyed into a like shared Plex server service, right?
Yeah.
So some guy in his basement somewhere has a 100 terabyte Plex server and sells people monthly access and rips all the new movies and puts them on there. I didn't even realize that was a thing. I guess I could have guessed that was probably a thing.
Totally legal, right?
Oh yeah,
that's
no
totally
problem.
legal.
No problem at all. But yeah, I was, as this whole thing was being explained to me, like light bulbs were going off in my head. Like, yeah, I don't know why I didn't think that people weren't probably doing this.
I have a friend who has that, not that specific thing where he pays someone, but like it's kind of like a for like Dolby Atmos demos, like that kind of thing. Like a lot of the actual, I'm not even talking about like movie scenes, but like the little bumpers and trailers where it's like, is little made by Dolby or made by DTS. Like he has access to like all of these remotely. And I'm like, I can't even get stuff to play properly locally, let alone like I couldn't even imagine. So, but it was pretty cool to like just see the vast amounts of like, I was like, I thought I had a bunch of the ones that are out. Apparently there's like hundreds more that I have no idea even existed. So that's pretty funny. Let's see, Terminator Juice, moving on. I'm trying to decide between the LS 12,000 and a JVC MP5, but I've never seen either brand in person. Do I go laser and give up black levels, or go bulb and lose on the brightness of the Epson? I don't have any projector experience, well, much. So yeah, I'm not sure.
We shot off the 12,000 and my NX7 in my room on multiple occasions with Pixel Pusher on ABS Forum, and a couple other local Michigan guys came through, and at least testing movie watching, if movie watching, high premium TV show watching, whatever, if that's what matters to you, everybody liked the NX and preferred the NX. I am seeing a lot more positivity, I guess, around the LS 12,000 if you're a gamer, and a little more negativity around like the JVCs lately if you're a gamer. I think the very, very specific cutting edge sentiment is flipping that way a bit. So I would temper it based more on what your use case is, rather than worrying about laser versus bulb and worrying even about that brightness, because there's no question that the 12,000 is definitively brighter than the NX7. And in my room, we all preferred watching the NX7.
It's not all about brightness, right?
No, I mean, I wouldn't scoff at another couple thousand lumens to go along with everything else the JVC does. Hence, I would like an NZ9. But yeah.
Let's see. We got a couple more questions left here. LLL asks, is it necessary to run Dirac a second time after adding an amplifier to your setup? Thanks, guys. My philosophy is this: if you really think about it and have to go, should I do this? The answer is probably yes.
Yeah.
Just so you stop wondering if you should.
Yes. Yeah.
Anytime you add like an external amplifier to something, it can technically change some things. Your even if it's like adding a slight delay or something that Dirac may be able to pick up and correct. Because anytime you add another device in between your amplifier and your speaker, you're potentially adding a little bit more delay, and that needs to be compensated for. So yeah, I would definitely rerun it. With Dirac, it's relatively simple. I do love the way Dirac has it set up where you could, just run basically any position after the first position that you want to. Whereas Odyssey is like very like, you must do this way and this way and this way. They're like, okay. But yeah, I would just rerun it. Yeah, I think that's probably the best practice is anytime you add something new, just you're gonna need to rerun it. Anytime you move something around in your room, you put you move the furniture over a foot, like it technically needs to be reran because now your room is no longer the same. The speakers are going to interact differently now. So yeah, I would definitely rerun it. That would be my recommendation.
Do it.
And then the final question here, I think. Okay, we got one more. I'm gonna add one more. Sorry. So power conditioner versus UPS for amplifiers and speakers. I think these are two different things. Really, a power conditioner is going to ensure that you're giving clean power, or the cleanest power that power conditioner can provide to that equipment, whereas a UPS is going to, if it's hooked up to the battery side of things, it's going to offer you surge protection along with the ability to properly power down your equipment or keep it powered on, depending on the thing. If you have like a power outage or brownout, I know sometimes we get like just quick brownouts here where things will flicker. And I don't have everything on a UPS, but I have like the TV and the two consoles on the UPS just because of power. I'm like, I don't want to overload. Like I can't plug my amplifier into it because it's just going to scream at me like we talked about earlier. So the like everything will flicker, but like the TV and stuff will stay on, and then the receiver will click off and then click back on. I could probably get a separate UPS just for the receiver. Because I don't know. Like I'd really be curious to see how much power it's pulling for the speakers.
If you want to know, when I put in the cyber power, there's a video on my channel, and I have a 1500 watt cyber power, so it's pretty beefy UPS. I did a video running a bunch of stuff, different things turned on. It was mostly focused around gaming, but I had my TV on because the LG's on it. All of pretty much everything in my system across both of my rooms, with the way things are set up right now, runs on this UPS except the amps now, and that's why I bought the Furman, because they were too much. All of these amps were too much for the UPS, and I wanted a little bit of power protection and power cleanup, but they don't need the UPS effect. But anyway, so with the PC, and I had the PlayStation at the time, I tested a bunch of stuff there and showed the power draw of all of that stuff running. So if you're curious about rating, what kind of UPS do you need for theater gear, that might be helpful.
Cool. Fantastic. Okay, last question here. Eric asks, what Blu-ray ripping software and format to recommend? DVD Fab, MKV, ISO? I have my preference, and it's just a combination of what can I think right now? Make MKV and MKV Toolnix, GUI, whatever. Those are the two I always use. They're mainly Make MKV for retaining the Dolby Vision enhancement layer. That's the main reason I do that, because it will I don't want to say fold it down into the metadata, so it's not the separate layer that like Plex and a lot of other players can't read. And this just makes it so that it can. But that's my preference. I don't know. Do you have you probably have a better workflow than I do, because I don't rip discs all the time. Just when, like, I haven't bought a movie in like, I don't know, a while.
I've got a bunch of like how-to ripping MKV focused content on the channel, and I actually did a video not that long ago where I put up the debate of like, why use MKV or why use ISO. So those videos are all there. That said, for the rips that I have, I choose MKVs. I don't want ISOs. ISO complicates a number of things, and but MKV complicates the actual ripping process. I've tinkered with DVD fob, and I didn't find it to be very reliable and very clear about how it worked and what you were getting. So focusing a ripping process on MKVs, I would go with Brad and just say use make MKV. And if you need to do any extra manipulations, MKV Toolnix is a good kit to do that.
Yeah, I should like basically say that to rip the actual disc, I'm using make MKV. And then if it's a disc, like for instance, John Wick Chapter 3 or Ready Player One, I want specific timestamps or basically a time frame to convert for demo purposes. I'll go into MKV Toolnix. I'm not necessarily worried about retaining Dolby Vision, although if you do everything right in make MKV Toolnix will just like everything will be fine. It'll play back in Dolby Vision, all that stuff. So that's my kind of 1-2 punch for ripping discs. We don't need to get into drives because that's a whole other ball game. You just made a video about ripping Kaleidoscape stuff, and you got a couple comments similar to, are these flashed with proper? Yeah, look at that. Okay, let's see if we can go full screen.
So Kaleidoscape just redid their whole disc to digital program, and you can now buy external drives, plug them into your Kaleidoscape player, and you just pop the drive in the tray. 6 seconds later, it catalogs it, and then you get a digital offer to buy the movie at a reduced price. It works absolutely freaking fantastic. I am so impressed. So that like all my content from over last weekend, because they literally announced it it came out and then they formally announced it after a leak last Thursday. And then I think it was on Thursday, and then come to realize I already had the firmware. My system was already updated. I got my drive on Saturday, and then I tested it out with about a dozen discs from a bunch of different studios, and it was nuts how good it worked. I'm going to try a few more coming up. Specifically, I want to try some DVDs instead of Blu-rays and kind of compare the price offer differences. There was a question about TV show, and I don't know honestly if they give a disc to digital discount for TV shows, so I'm going to try a couple of those. And then there's a few other specifics that, like edge cases, I would call them, that I want to try out. So I'll probably do not necessarily a part 2, but follow up with a couple of the other like specific types of content and how does Kaleidoscape respond to the D2D. But this is pretty phenomenal change to the platform.
When I read about that, I'm like, that's really cool. Like I used to use the disc to digital program on Voodoo back when I don't think they still offer that, but that's back when DVD drives and stuff were commonplace in computers, and now you don't get that most of the time. I remember helping Michael pick out stuff for his computer, and he's like, where am I going to put the DVD drive in this case? I'm like, you use a DVD drive still? And then he was like, oh, I have some client stuff that I need to burn. I'm like, external, like, not a lot of internal stuff anymore, but all right. Well, I think that is going to wrap up our almost 2 hour and 45-minute live stream. I want to thank you everyone for joining. It was a lot of fun. Honestly, I we didn't really have a topic, and I think that kind of worked really well tonight. A lot of questions, a lot of really good questions. Hopefully we helped a lot of you guys. Anyone who's still watching that gave us a super chat, we definitely appreciate you. We appreciate everyone equally, but thanks for showing your support. It really does mean a lot to both of us. And Jeremy, you want to say anything to kind of sign us off here?
Yeah, well, if there's any other questions too, post them in the regular comments of the video. We'll be able to see them there, maybe answer after the fact as well. Otherwise, stay tuned to the channels. I think I got some cool content coming up. I got more on this Kaleidoscape stuff. I got my Control 4 Halo remote reviews, and then a couple technical videos about how to use the Halos with Apple TV and Kaleidoscape, and get this Lumagen fired up. So all kinds of stuff.
Awesome.
All kinds of stuff coming.
Awesome. Yeah, on my side, I'm working on the hopefully should have the Imperium Bravis to 12D subwoofer unboxing impressions video out tomorrow. Like I'm just kind of wrapping up production on or editing on that. I was meant to work on it today, but as I said earlier, I had some PC issues that I had to resolve. And yeah, I got the Hisense U7H review still coming. Hopefully this weekend, maybe early next week. And then yeah, I got some other videos planned. I actually just got this guy here sent to me from Ore. I don't know if you can focus it. Come on. So this is their high-end kind of, I don't say high-end. Their top dog, their HDMI audio extractor for older receivers and stuff. So I'm going to be doing like an unboxing and hookup of that. So that's really cool. And then also I'm going to be doing a 15,000 subscriber live stream celebration when I hit that. So hopefully we'll get there soon. I think the last time I checked, I was around, I don't know, 70 subscribers or so from hitting that. So thanks again to everyone who's kind of shown their support, stuck around for the channel, my channel. And you know, if you're not subscribed to me or Jeremy, you know, and you found value out of this video, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe. We appreciate it. And yeah, I think that's it, man. We had a really good time. Thanks everyone for joining, and we will see you later.
Good night.